Hello. Good afternoon. There we go. Letting people in. How's it going today?
Good.
All right. Nice to see you guys.
Happy Tuesday.
Yay. Happy Tuesday. Definitely better than Mondays, right?
Definitely.
The week is happening.
Mhm.
All right. I like that point of view. All right. Here we go. Let me let those people in. There we go. All right. So while a few other people join us, let me hide this and hide that. There we go. I have way too many things open. There you go. Just closing things up as I tell you all to do so that I can do VDI more easily. I've heard from some of you all today, over this whole week. So thank you for those of you who communicate with me, telling me what is or isn't working. I like hearing the good stuff and the bad stuff. So if you have anything nice to say, some people had that today, thank you. That boosts me. And if you have something not, working or things that you need help with, definitely reach out. Now, I know I'm preaching to the choir because you guys are the ones who show up. But I try to say this also for the people who watch the videos, because too many times I'm spending hours trying to help someone on email when if they had just watched the videos, they would know what's happening. So I'm considering next time, if we still do this online, to just require watching the Zoom videos. But anyway, so how's it going with Word? Y'all feel more empowered now that we're kind of leaving this program for now? How does it feel? Do you think you've learned something worthwhile? I mean, most of you knew some Word, right? I mean, it's very few people said they had never used the Word program of the people who started this class. Yet I think that you might have discovered some things you never knew that might help you be more efficient or be more feel more secure in what you do know about the program now, right? That's what I'm hoping. When I've used Word for countless eons, all of the Excel programs for countless eons. And the first time I taught this class, I don't know, 6 years ago, and I've been teaching all these programs for 25 years, but this particular class with this book and its previous iterations, I discovered stuff I had never known. It's like, okay, well, I wish I'd known this because I've been always just doing it a different way, and this is so much easier. So anyway, it's kind of, I discovered stuff that I didn't know, that it only helps. Cool. That's good to know, Julie. All right. I'm going to ask you before we start on today is all about Excel. But first I want to kick back and styles. Yeah, styles become your friend. See, that's an example of something that I always knew what styles were. I'm a graphic designer, so I've used them always in design programs, right? And eons ago in Quark and InDesign and Photoshop and all those things. I've used styles galore. But it had never occurred to me that styles in Word, I don't know, I was just using Word, making things be bold and green and small and big and not worrying. And when I started using styles, it became so much easier to make things actually work. And it started happening that someone asked me to work on some templates. And for me, templates had always been design products, right? Like, books and templates. And someone said, I have some templates in Word that I need to then transfer to a book that I had to print out for them. And so she gave me all these templates in Word. And I was like, how do I fix these things? Because although I've used Word forever, things to write. I had never really gotten something that was full of styles, and it was hundreds of pages. And so that's when I discovered that I could do that so easily using styles. I would describe a style that I wanted and then go in and just select in those 100 pages everything that needed that style, press one button, and boom, I was able to do hundreds of pages in a very short time. And that's when I fell in love with styles. But it took me needing to do a job with that, right? I mean, I understood how to use them because of all my design programs where all this came from to start with, and then Word adopted it, deciding, hey, that's not a bad idea. But I had never used it in Word. And so, yeah, now you use it across the whole set of programs, because of what you learned. See, that's the thing I wanted to say. What you've learned what you've learned in Word, other than specifics about MLA, what you've learned in Word is something that'll carry across all the next set of programs that we're going to use, because every single thing you've learned, it keeps being applied again and again and again. Maybe a little bit less in Excel because it's a bit more about numbers, at least the part that we do. But we're going to do a ton of formatting. We're going to use styles galore in Excel. You'll see in styling Excel sheets. So just understanding the concept and now doing it with Excel is going to be awesome. And then when you get to PowerPoint, it'll be also really useful, because there it really matters how things look. It's a presentation program. So yeah, so it's all it all works, it all feeds upon itself. Just so you know, the book moves from Word into PowerPoint and then to Excel, but we're skipping PowerPoint. We're going straight into Excel. Then we're going to do Access, and we leave PowerPoint for the end. I think I've mentioned that PowerPoint is you can create very complex and very good looking material, but it's actually a pretty easy program to learn how to use. And at the end of the session, people have, exams and stuff coming from all their classes, and it gets crazy. So instead of leaving the Access for the end, we decided to first go with Excel and Power and Access, and then leave PowerPoint kind of like a nice little sliding in towards the end. So you have to skip the PowerPoint portion in your book, and we'll do Excel and Access next. Okay, so it looks like whoever's here is going to be here. And let me see things that you're saying. Yeah. Everyday tasks easier. Yep. And you didn't know MLA was a thing. Yeah, there you go. You had to do things on a typewriter. How much easier now, right? I mean, I went into college and I did everything over a typewriter. The other day I found in some old box a notebook that I used for some big presentation I made, and it was full of, I went to school to study photography, professional photography, and we had to put lots of different notations of timings and stuff all by hand. I was like, oh my God, you made a mistake. How did you fix that, right? And I lived through it, and I can't conceive right now. I know. How did that work?
No, me either.
I do not have a very good handwriting. So my way around it, and I'm looking now at my creativity at that point, is I used a typewriter, would print out things, cut out the blocks of paper and glue them into the notebook. I would make the titles nice by hand. Then I would glue the writing so that if I had to type it again, because I could just not write nicely for the life of me, right? Anyway. So Haley, what's your question? What is the hardest to learn to do? You mean of the 4 programs we're going to be learning, or what? What was the question mean? I'm meanwhile heading over the programs. Well, I would say none of them are particularly hard, other than the fact that you are, I mean, the only hard part about any of these is beginning, right? Because what you learn, for those of you who have never done it, the hardest part would even be Word, just beginning, understanding how the ribbon works, how the whole thing works. But once you begin to know what's happening, it becomes more what you're interested in and what you're not interested in. So for example, Katie, when she shows up, she loves Access, she loves Excel. And I prefer, of course, PowerPoint because I'm a designer, right? So I prefer the graphics. So it becomes, if you really hate numbers, you might not really enjoy Excel. Or it's the other way around. You'll be like, oh my God, I can do numbers without having to calculate these things. Something calculates them for me, which is how I see Excel. I see it as a tremendously useful program, but not necessarily that I love using it. And it's not hard to do, but I wouldn't say I ever have fun doing it. It's a necessity for me. Versus but on the other hand, I could never do all the budgeting, all the invoicing, all that stuff correctly without it. So I love it in that sense, but it isn't fun. I think none of them are hard. It's just understanding what you're supposed to do with them. The one that some people have the most issue with is Access, not because it's harder, but because no one has used it yet, right? So once you use it, you'll see it's just as easy to learn as Word or Excel or PowerPoint. It's just that it's new for just about everyone in class versus everyone knows it, maybe here and there a tad about the other programs, and some people know them pretty well. And so it kind of equalizes the class that no one really knows Access, right? But it's not hard, not harder than any of the rest of them. It's just new, right? So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and share, unless there's anything you guys else want to say about I'm going to ask you a bit more about the assignments and stuff, but is there anything else you want to say before I start sharing today's thing? Yeah, Haley?
I had a question about the assignment.
Hold on, want to say hi to your babes? Hi, hello. Anyway, okay, what's that?
So both assignments, I could not figure out how to do the footnote right. And I don't know. I just couldn't figure it out. So I don't know if you could explain that.
We did we worked here on the footnote last time during lab time. No, which is no, I'm happy to explain it again, but just saying that whenever you get to a place where you're really stopped that you don't know something, consider shooting me an email and I might tell you, oh yeah, the last part of the recording should have that or something, because I'll know if I talked about it or not during class. Now if perchance you're doing things at the last minute, there's no time, but if you run upon something like that, or I'll say, oh, well, no, I didn't explain that here, and I can point you to some tutorials or have you join Zoom. I can also I don't have as much availability as all the comp tutorings, but I can also do Zoom with you guys to show you some stuff during the week.
Okay.
If you ever have that need. So yeah, I'll point you to, we can work a little bit on that here too. Oh, here's Katie. Let's let her in. And there you go. Hi, Katie. All right, there you go, making her co-host. So yeah, the footnote had I'm assuming the issue you had was with the styling of it. Is that where you had issues, or just creating it?
The thing I got wrong on the assignment was it was saying that the font was wrong in the font and style, I think it was.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I had it.
Well, yeah, well, here's the thing.
Haley,
When you
I had the
insert,
same problem.
yeah, so when you create all of the initial text, then you have to set the style where you have to change the normal style. And the normal style, you have to go from whatever your computer sets it as to times 12, New Roman, 12 points, in, out, all that stuff. And so that's the normal that you've adapted. And then the whole rest of the assignment comes out in the right format, except for the footnote. Because the footnote, once you insert a footnote, it comes out in footnote styling, which is a footnote preset that Word has as part of its basic presets, which doesn't look like MLA styling. So you need to do a new style. You have to use the style that the footnote comes out in, and once again, modify that style. So just as much as we modify the normal style to be Times New Roman, you have to modify the footnote that I don't remember how it starts to be, again, Times New Roman, one double line, that whole thing. So you need to change whatever footnote comes in to, again, Times New Roman, double line, first line indented, half of it. You have to repeat those steps, but on that style. So yeah, I can show you that again, but that's what it is. It needs to be, it has, because it comes out as footnote, footnote for Word means a particular style, usually smaller, because when you see footnotes, usually they're like these little tiny writing at the bottom of a page or something like that. And
Yeah.
that works, but not for MLA. MLA wants you to have it in the same big format. So that's what it's all about. Okay.
I was so frustrated. I was like, I give up.
Yeah.
And then I was
Yeah.
gonna call Katie, but then I had all my kids and it was loud. Like, I'm over it.
And you, Joe, you're
Me,
saying,
Haley, me too. And I had the same problem. I was working on it today before I took a half a day from work, just to work on it. Cause I was like, I need to have some quiet time. So I worked on it and both of my things, and I figured it out. I knew that I had to change it to the MLA style. I knew what it was telling me to do, but for some odd reason, it just wasn't working. And I just said, fine, I'm done. I know what's going on here. And so I know I don't need to contact Katie, but for some reason it just wasn't sticking. So
Yeah.
But you did.
I'm fine with whatever grades I got. I'm just like, they're not bad. It's not like 10, but
it's fine, except for I want you to know that Katie, first of all, of course, the typical teacher request, don't leave it till the last day. But I know I say that, and I have to admit to you guys, mea culpa, I'm a person who leaves, assignments also very much, unfortunately, to the last day. So I preach to the choir when I say, hey, don't do it, but I know you all do it. So the good news is Katie's available pretty much all day on Tuesdays. She's there all morning till 1 p.m. and then she's back at 4:30 to 5:30. So it's curious that for people who do wait until the last minute, someone contacted me today at 12:45. And so by the time I answered and went back and forth, I mean, I had 15 emails back and forth with one person trying to get them to do something, going, you just missed Katie by a minute, right? It's so much harder to explain things on email while I'm between dealing with other classes than to have someone just show you. So whenever you think, oh, it's not worth it, I don't have the time, it actually totally is worth it to just connect with her, because she can set you right in a few seconds.
My biggest thing is like, Haley, I'm working. My big thing is I'm working I work 8:30 to 5, and the only day that really they're available when I'm available is Wednesday.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, we are here all day for class today. You can hang out.
But that's okay. I mean, it's
to work on your assignment.
Believe me, I totally know. I waited till the last minute.
Yeah. No, but it is true what I was going to say, and you'll see in my slideshow today. I do have this place where I say, just consider if you can stay today, because actually for both of you, I explained footnotes during the lecture part of last week, because I know people stumble on that. In fact, you'll see when people say, what do people get wrong? You'll see my PowerPoint in a second. Well, this is what people tend to have problems with. And one of them is, the footnote style. So if you can't during the week, then maybe you can stay while I explain the harder. I don't go through the whole assignment at all, but I pinpoint on the things that I know people are going to have trouble with. And one of them is footnote style, because we've done this a lot and we know that that's where a lot of people stumble on, right? So, or watch when you have a minute, the video to see, or ask me, is there anything in the video about footnotes? And I'll go, yeah, we did that towards the end or something like that. So you don't have to sit through the whole thing. And I wish I had time to, on top of everything, I do edit the videos to just show the important parts and skip maybe this part where we're talking for the people who don't see it. But I can't do that. I teach too many classes a week to sit there and then edit everything. So you can kind of zoom through it. And what I would like, Katie, maybe I can point, she's like, no, don't tell me. And maybe I can have someone zoom through and put like little timers in the comment where you have like, 0.35, we talk about footnotes, or 7.48, we talk about, I don't know, might be more helpful. Anyway, so I'm inside, I'm here in VM view here for a second, and I'm going to open Word, and I'm going to give you, oh, come now. it's resisting opening. There, it finally opened. I've been having a hard time connecting to VMview lately. Every time I connect, it's just not wanting to. I just had to go to Firefox and Chrome. It wasn't connecting.
And you're
don't know
logging
why.
out you turn off the computer and then you log out. Okay.
Yeah. But Firefox always
think-
connects. It's Chrome
well,
that doesn't.
One of the things is we're getting more Chromebooks in stock, but not a new like server for everything to house VMware stuff. So it's probably
So I'm going to share for a second
load
here. Haley, are you
issue.
still there? I know you got your kids on top of you. I'm going to show the footnotes. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Just my
No, yeah, you don't have to. I just wanted to make sure you were still there.
also
Let me share my
also
screen
Haley,
for a minute.
definitely come in even with the kids because we can just go for open lab because we can go into like a breakout room and
okay.
it would be just the two of us.
Okay. As
And
long
then I
as
can
you
make
don't
funny.
mind talking in the background.
Not at all. I'll make funny faces to give them something to look at if you need.
They're about
Yeah,
to
that's.
I've got
fine.
giant
Support-
stuffed animals. I can.
You know, it's really important for you to know that we so appreciate that you guys, with all that's going on,
Yeah.
you're still taking classes, you're doing your best. You know, we're not only going to accommodate, but I think that you're a hero. And, you know, trust me, if you need to be there with your dog on your lap, with your 3 babies on your lap, hey, you're trying, right? So don't worry at all. Okay?
We have one. Yeah, we have one. She's one of the IT people. She has a daughter that does her Zoom class in the other side of the room. So every so often she gets like really excited and just like you can hear her in the background like singing the ABCs and stuff. Or like, they're like
Yeah.
adorable.
We do what
Yeah.
we can. Like
And,
right now, my family is in the kitchen, which is barely 10 steps away from here, cooking dinner, and they're doing the microwave. And every now and then my thing falters and I'm like, stop with the microwave, you know, and this is real life. We just got what we got, right? We're all at home. Okay, so over here in front of me, I have just a bunch of basic sample text. And remember that the first thing was to make this whole thing be, let me let Joseph in, that this whole thing had to be modified. The normal had to be modified because it comes out as normal. So remember, you had to go in here, right click and modify and change it into whatever we changed it, which was basically, I think it was Times New Roman.
It was Times New Roman 12.
12. And then, and I'm not going to go through, but we went to format to the paragraph and change all that kind of stuff, right? So when you say okay to that, that changed for all of the text that comes out as normal, which is whatever's body. But then when you insert footnote, so I'm going to go to insert a footnote here. Whoops, references, insert a footnote. Okay. This font, this is a footnote. This is not
You accidentally
normal.
look up.
Thank you.
Mhm.
This is a footnote. This is not normal body text. So Word has given it a different formatting, right? Oh God, this is a footnote. This is not, wow. This is not normal body text. So Word has given a different format. That was horrible writing. Okay, so when you actually go look at the formatting, if you see normal, all right, normal is not selected. See, when you click on this, normal is selected, but when you click on here, normal is not selected. This is not normal. And if I go look down here and try to find what it's selected, it's probably something that's not very useful. So this is kind of like the top hits of presets, but none of these are selected.
That is the best way to describe it. Like, here's the most helpful. I
Here are
swear.
the ones that they mess up, but there's many more than that is. So in order to find out what this is, if you click here and you see this thing as normal, you can tell it's normal. But what if you don't see this, or what if this is small? One way to do it is to right click and then just find out what style it is, right? So head over here and I'm going to footnotes, and actually footnote is one word. So then if I right click here, I go here to style, okay? and it's showing me that it is footnote text style. Let me cancel that out again. Let me go back one more time. If you click on the text up here and you try to find, why am I not getting this style here? Oh, I guess because
don't
here it
know.
is, styles. It's
Oh.
just that it's hiding in the ribbon. Let me go down lower so that
Oh, I
it
wonder if you
shows.
get the ribbon down there.
See over there, the styles?
Mhm.
So it's showing me that it's normal. It's showing me that it's on the top level of styles. Down here, it doesn't. So instead it says, we'll go to styles. So you go to styles and look at all the possible styles that exist. Tons of possible styles that exist. One of them is footnote text. And it's Times New Roman 10 points. And it's an only single space and all of that. So you basically go, oh, so I have to modify it here. So you go in and you go again, 12 points, and then you go to format to paragraph and you add the double lining, and you basically have to do all the stuff we did before, indent and all that kind of thing. And once you say, okay, now this will have, and you have to say, okay, like 4 times, and then boom, see how it got much bigger and stuff. So you have to modify those styles. Okay, Joe, did that help too for
Oh,
you?
yeah.
All right.
Is
So
that a
whenever
cat
you
or a
guys,
dog?
don't
Oh,
know,
it's a dog.
when you click anywhere and any text that shows up, when you don't know what it is, this will give you an indication. So say that I change this to, red, or say that I change this to, 26 points. You see it's bigger, but you don't know. If you click on it, you can see over here what it is now. And so if you click, this cursor is clicked in here, then I'll see that it says 26 versus if it's clicked in here, it says 12 versus if I click in here, it tells me that it's red, right? Same with the styles. It tells you what style it is. And when you click on this, you discover it doesn't tell you a style. So there's something curious happening. This is a different style. That's not one of those basic ones. So that's how you find out what it is, by actually going into the right stuff. Okay.
Yeah, I was going in and changing it to Times New Roman in 12. I wasn't, so that's,
Using
I was
styles.
like, it is that. Why is this saying it's wrong? It is that.
I know.
But
Like
now
that's
I
the thing. Yeah, it's just that the assignment wants you to learn to use styles. So it wants you to modify the style, not just make it look good. Because
Yeah.
consider that this assignment that you're getting is only a 2-page assignment. But if you were doing this to a 100-page document,
Or like
then
a chem
you
final.
change, you
paper.
just modify the style once and it
Chemistry
modifies footnotes along your 100 pages versus if you had to select each time you have a footnote and make it 0.12, 0.12,
Yeah.
0.12. It would drive you crazy and you'd probably forget one or two. And this way you modify styles once and every single footnote is fixed. Okay, that's the power of styles, really the big documents that here you don't really get to experience that power of changing one thing and having it change across 100. But that's the idea. Usually research papers are more than 1 page, right? So for the styles at least. All right. So, okay. So I hope that explained that. Anything else that was complicated that you guys want to hear a little bit more about before we tackle the new stuff? All right. Looking at the chat. Okay. No one's saying anything else. All right. So I'm going to switch my share and actually start on the PowerPoint. All right. So Molly's arriving. Let me let her in. Okay. So here we go. We have something that I had said last week that this week was the last chance to select pass, no pass. Sorry, my hair is getting caught on the headset right there. It was modified. The district has changed their rules because I don't know. They didn't explain why. We got an email from administration that the pass no pass choice has been moved from Friday, February 11th to Friday, April 23rd. So if anyone still has a question about that or wants to know about that more, please email me, let me know. you still have time. Today, we were going to review module 2, what we just did, and then we're going to start working with Excel. The assignments due today were the 3 module 2 textbook and 2 SAM projects. And you had the possible extra credit for apply. Now, I know this is not necessarily, well, it's okay. This is not necessarily a statistical bunch to have you guys here and compare. We have 27 people in the class, 26 people in the class. But by 5 p.m., I know a lot of people submitted last minute, but by 5 p.m., 11 had not submitted the textbook project and 6 each had not submitted the SAM projects. And this is what I wanted to talk to. I think the SAM projects are a bit easier and that stuff comes typed for you. So you just need to work at them less. And so people seem to be attacking those first. But then they're not working on the textbook project. And I highly recommend to start earlier and to start with the textbook project, because then you'll learn so much more. And thus, and every time it happens when I check on the grades that people get who don't submit the textbook, but submit the SAMs, because they're trying to just kind of slide it in. What happens is that they certainly don't get as high a grade as the people who first work on the textbook project. So even though you have to invest a bit more time in this one, then these 2 just pop out versus trying to do these 2 without doing that one. Okay, so this is just suggestions from your teacher who has seen this happen too many times. And I basically say, first, don't skip it. First, do that one. And then the other option is, if you can, during these Tuesdays, stay in class and use the time when we say, okay, now it's lab time, to complete the assignments or ask your questions or make sure to connect with tutors. So basically the exact questions and things that you guys mentioned, that's what I was going to refer to today. I highly recommend doing things that way, and then it'll be easier. For next week, you have a total of 3 projects again: Excel module 1 textbook project, and then SAM's module 1 or module 2. So you just heard what I recommended. Please try to do textbook project first. We used to have it that textbook project was worth a different amount of points than the SAM projects. But then, so anyway, now I modified them. I give you the same amount of points for all of them. That's to encourage you to make sure to go through the first one. So Joseph, you made the mistake of not doing the training, and then you had to fix and figure everything out. Yeah, so, and if this is something that's pretty new to you, then definitely do the trainings even before you do the textbook project. So like, if you haven't done Excel, if Excel is totally new for you, then I do recommend doing the Excel training. For those of you who know some Excel, just want to learn deeper and more, then maybe just start with the book. But definitely help, the training will help you get going. I'm not going to give points for the training anymore until we get to Access. And Access, I will give you points for, in fact, it'll be 10 points for the training, as if you were doing an assignment. So Haley, the textbook project takes 3 times the amount of time than the projects for me. Yeah. It's just that's where you're learning, right? And you have to go through all the typing of everything, and versus the SAMs have them typed. It's almost a reward to have the SAMs be easier. But then if people jump to the SAMs, because you did the textbook projects, then the SAMs come out easy. But if you only do the SAMs, people go, oh, I know Word, I've been doing this for a while, then forget it. That's the whole point. Like the footnotes, all those things, just you don't know why to fix them, because you haven't had to follow every single moment, every single step that the textbook makes you step. Will the modules still be able to finish just for learning? The modules are always open. The trainings are always open all the time. The assignments have a due date after which, if you can't submit, and if you're having issues or submitting and you reach out to me like you did, Molly, last week, that I said you could submit late. But for the most part, no, you can't submit late. The module, all the learning is available, but the assignment, when it's due, it's due.
So they'll stay open, so I can still I need to learn. I don't care so much about the grading as I need to learn the material for work. So
Yeah. The trainings have always been available. Every single training is available the whole time.
Okay,
And they will be. So even when you're back doing
Lagging.
PowerPoint, you can still go back to the trainings for all of them. Mhm.
okay.
They don't have deadlines on them. So.
Great.
Mhm. And the only reason I put the trainings as assignments is because otherwise people weren't doing them at all. And I don't think everyone needs to do the trainings. Some people certainly don't need to do them, but I think that for a lot of people, they are good to do them. And so I put them in as assignments worth nothing. So people see them on the syllabus. The way Canvas is, I can't put them in there unless it's an assignment. So then you see the training and you can click on it and do it. Otherwise, you need to go into the modules and find them. And a lot of people don't go into the modules and find them. And so when I was telling them to do the trainings, they were like, well, I don't know where to find them. So now I make them assignments, but they're assignments worth just your wanting to do them or not. It helps you. Okay. All right. So this is what's due next week. One more suggestion when it comes to assignments. Typically nothing will go wrong unless you're late and doing it at the last minute. Then everything that has to go wrong will go wrong. And I can try and help as much as I can. But, right in between 1 p.m. and 4:30 p.m., Katie is not available, right? So she's been available all morning. Then she's not available when people are beginning to get desperate. And then she's available for 1 hour at the end where, so many people are having trouble today. And I kept sending them to Katie, but she says no one went. So try to do things earlier and be able to get her help in the morning. Otherwise, something will happen around 2 p.m. and you will be all desperate that you won't be able to submit. Okay. So if you can't submit at the very last minute, that's not necessarily an emergency. I will consider we're being way more lenient now with COVID. In the past, there was no chance you could turn anything late, period. Now, during COVID and a bunch of other stuff, we're being more lenient. But definitely it's still not an emergency to do things at the last minute and not be able to submit. Okay, now I'm talking about just the submission process where you have issues with submitting. So go ahead and remember to stay. So somebody once said, oh, look, I can't submit. This is when assignments were due at 11:29 p.m. And they sent me this is from a few sessions ago. And they sent me this thing to show me that they couldn't submit. But then I looked at the time and they were trying to submit at 11:08 and the assignment was due at 11:29. So their first attempt at submitting was 20 minutes before the assignment was due. And at that point I was sleeping. I couldn't even help them, right? So I was like, I'm sorry, that's not the way to do it. Now we're all available before 5:30, so I can help you more during the day. But consider not waiting until last minute. Okay. So I have some stuff in here that I'm not going to go through because I've told you before, if you were in person, I could give you extra credit for being here. I can't do that. So I have some extra credit questions that I'm going to skip. Let me go ahead and skip them. Because I can't.
You can have fun doing the questions. They just don't get any points. It's like, what is that show? Whose line is it anyway? Where the points don't matter. I don't remember the whole line.
Well, let me ask you guys then, what's the difference between an endnote and a footnote?
If anybody knows it off the top of your head, if not, you guys can all look in your books. It's open note, open book.
Here's the thing. The point of this is it's usually called read between the dots. You know how you guys to do the textbook assignments, you're supposed to basically in the textbook, go to the red dots. Well, I highly recommend reading beyond the red dot. So here's an example. If you look at my book, the assignment says do this point and then do that point. But then when you go to the next page, there's just a bunch of text, right? There's no dot there. So what I find is a lot of people just flip to the following dot and then keep doing the dots. But if you don't read the stuff that's in the middle, and I understand that's why it takes much longer, but by not reading the stuff that's in the middle, you learn much less than if you were to read what's in the middle. So this assignment, which I give extra credit points, is read between the dots. is precisely for people to encourage people to do that reading that will give you that much more knowledge. And so if you're here, like, because you need a grade, it's up to you to do it or not. But like Molly said, if you're here to learn, please read between the dots because there's a lot of information in there. That's really good. So
Yes.
Haley
And Stacy.
and Stacy. Footnote is the end of the page. Endnote is the end of the paper. Footnotes, so that's Stacy and Haley. Footnotes are at the bottom. Endnotes are at a list at the end of the text. Okay, so you're both right. And if it's a book, it's at the end of the whole book.
I don't have any.
Versus, what's that?
Oh, I don't have any like little pom poms or things. I'm like,
Oh,
yay!
I know.
Ah,
Here. Oh, but I do have something fun here near my, so you guys get little Valentine origami hearts. This is,
yay.
Woo! I got my kids for Valentine's and I still have them right here. Made
Oh,
little
cute.
origami hearts for me. Aren't they cute?
Oh, that's adorable.
It's my sweet boys. And I have them right here next to me. I was gonna stick them up next to the desk. So Valentine hearts for Stacy and Haley. Okay. All right.
Yeah, there's a lot you can do with Word.
What's the abbreviation N.PAG. mean in the works? This would be in the works cited is where it appears.
No page number.
Yes, actually pretty good. I was looking at the page. Molly, how complicated it was. It's no pagination, meaning that there is no page reference. For example, a web source. You know how there's no pages for a web source? Like if it's a textbook or a chapter or something, you can always find a page. Even a magazine, you kind of count backwards because sometimes they don't have a number, but you know that page 25 is a number, and then you go, oh, this is page 28, even if you don't see a number. But on the web, there's no dates. So who was that? Who said that? Because I wasn't looking at, was that Faye? No, someone's, yay, little hearts. This time it's two little flying hearts. Faye. Okay. For those of you who stayed for the lab portion of last week, you might know the answer. Why can't you just hit center a line to center the works cited title? Oh, Haley had also said no pagination. Any idea about the works cited? What would happen if when I get to the works cited, I hit center align? Oh, some of you
And
stayed.
everything else would be centered.
Good guess. But no. I kind of gave that example. Let me see if in that Word file that I have open here, I can pull it up. Give me a sec.
Because it's the
Yeah.
first line, it would.
Yeah,
that
it
makes
is.
sense.
Yeah, so basically, here we go. In the formatting that you did, you've asked the first line to always be ½ inch indented, right? So if you then center that, it's half a page, ½ inch off. So here's the actual, if you can note it, if you can tell, I don't know if you can tell, but this is not centered and this is centered. It's ½ inch off because this here is what makes that whole paragraph be ½ inch further in than it should be. So even if it's centered, it doesn't center. So then you have to go and take off that ½ inch for that title. So if any of you guys ran into that one, I think interestingly enough that although they make a point of telling you how to fix it, my memory is that last session we discovered that people, when they didn't fix that Cengage did not count it down a lot, even though they spend like 3 pages telling you how to fix this in the textbook. So I was surprised because then there's like a little comma missing and they, 10 points less. But anyway, that's I think last time they saw that it wasn't being counted down or discounted, maybe like 1 point or something. But that's just to make you aware. Now, let me get you, let me get the example. Most importantly, what I want to do is let me get Firefox up here because I want to share this with you so you know what I'm talking about, because I know that a lot of you went, hey, I have no idea what she's talking about. So let me show this to you. So, and this is the, let me undo a bunch of these last things where I missed. I forget that I'm on a PC. So here we have a bunch of this text. I did not yet actually change this yet.
You're still choosing what you want to show us.
Oh, sorry. There we go.
Cool.
So this is the text and I'm going to modify it to add that 1/2 inch. I'm going to go to the paragraph and add the first line indent by 1/2. Okay, so I'm going to say okay to that and okay to that. And so see how both of these became first line indents. So if I now create a new page, remember how to do a new page? Insert where's my page break? There you go. I work on a Mac as a norm. So here I'm in my new page where I need to write works cited, but if you might pay attention, and let me get the ruler, turn the ruler on. Then if you pay attention, I'm already indented by 1/2 inch. So if I go ahead and bring myself into center to write works cited, God, today I'm not able to type. If I write works cited, I'm not really in the center because I'm indented by 1/2 inch. So you have to go in and grab this one and move that backwards so that now you truly are 1/2 and 1/2. You are really centered on the page. Because for that one first line plus centering, it's been pushed off. Okay. So that's what that's all about, to recenter yourself. I'm gonna go back to sharing page 2. So anyway, that's the example there. Okay. So here I was just showing you how to fix it, is how to go in here and bring that back from 1/2 inch indent, which is what I just showed you in real life. All right. Let's see. I have something to say. I'm about to switch gears to go into Excel. So any more questions about Word? We are going to leave Word behind, not forever. In 3 weeks, I believe we have our exam. 4 weeks, 3. It'll come up, but in 3 or 4 weeks we have our first exam. And when we do that, you'll be able to work on the week before we have our exam. I'm going to be giving you some assignments that are both Word and Excel to review. So you'll get some chance to review MLA and flyers before you do your exam. Okay. But other than that, we're done with Word. So any other questions, last minute or not, before we move on? Nope, says Faye. No one else says anything. Nope. Okay, I'm really thirsty today. Give me a sec here. All right. So for some of you guys who are not going to stay for listening, because I know how it goes, and some of you guys are not going to stay to listen too much about Excel. So I do want to give you some pointers. The first Excel assignment, as usual, as you did with textbook, you're going to have to write everything out. And the second set, the SAMs, you're going to download an assignment that's going to look like this. Yeah, I haven't taught you Excel yet. So if you don't know Excel, stay for the whole thing. But for those of you who think you know it enough that you're not going to stay for my explanation, then that's because you know enough to know that these are two different sheets. And if you don't know what sheets are, then stay for me to explain them. But this is a little bit of ahead of time. It'll have one sheet that says documentation, and it'll be called SAM Project 1A, and it'll have your name. So don't touch that sheet. That's the one that Sam needs to know that this is your file. This is the start file kind of thing. You're going to go to the second sheet. Okay. And that's where you're going to have the assignment that you need to work on. Okay. So that's just a warning for those of you who are in a hurry to leave. And then once you submit and get your report, the report is going to come in as another sheet, and it'll call graded summary report. So it'll be another sheet where you'll have all of your corrections and stuff. Okay, so that's how the SAMs are going to be. Both SAMs and the textbook project will have your reports that way, but the textbook project that you start with, you will just have your sheets. You won't have this. This is just for the SAM projects that come pre-written for you. Okay. Does that make sense? Any questions about what I just said? If you don't know what the sheets are and stuff, I'll explain all of that now. For those of you who know about sheets and who are just going to give it a try on your own, just know where you'll find your reports and what to ignore. Okay, just the documentation one, ignore it, don't touch it. If you change things, someone today, the person I said that I had 15 emails with had, and this is something I had never seen before, so this is news to me and to you, Katie. I'll tell you in case you come up with someone. They had downloaded the start, they kept submitting in the computer. They wouldn't allow them to submit. Cengage said that there was something material copied, or it wasn't the start file, or it wasn't allowing it. And he swore to me he had started from the start file, not from the blank file. And then after 15 emails back and forth, I'm like, listen, I've run out of ideas. If you say you did this way, he said something about having, and I was saying you can't copy paste into it. He had copied the text that had the book, the ebook. See, when people didn't use the ebooks before, they used the textbook, but he had used the ebook. So he had copied the text from the ebook, pasted it in there, and then formatted and did all the learning he thought he had to do. But he had copied the text and I'd have to write it out. And I'm like, but it took a bunch of emails for us to figure that one out, because you couldn't actually do that before with the ebook, but I guess you can do that now. And so he had just done that, pasted it in, and then done the formatting. He wasn't trying not to do it. He was trying to avoid the writing. And I'm like, well, you have to redo the whole assignment because you're not allowed to paste in stuff from somewhere else. So this
Avoid
is
the accident and trying to avoid the accidental mistakes like spelling errors and stuff.
yeah. So it
Sounds like
makes
a good
sense.
idea,
What's
but-
the point? But basically he had to redo the entire assignment. So this is that kind of thing. Ignore, do not touch this page. Okay, do not touch the one that's called, that's the one that if you touch or mess around with, your whole thing gets not accepted. All right. So at this point, I'm going to start explaining Excel. So I'm going to explain a few things with the presentation. And then after that, I'm going to open up Excel and actually really begin hands-on explaining of Excel. So at least hang out during the presentation to know what the assignments are going to be. And then if you know Excel really well, you just want to tackle doing the assignments your own, you're welcome to leave, or you're welcome to stay and learn a lot more with me and Katie. But hang on a little bit longer while I tell you what we're going to be doing with the first module of Excel.
Or you can just leave it in the background to play and work on your assignment and then message me if you need help with anything.
Yeah. That's the other thing, that if you're going to be doing your assignments later on your own or tonight while we are here, that's the better idea. So this is your first assignment for module 1. You're going to create from scratch a real estate budget, and it'll be income and expenses, and you're going to have to do all these calculations, and you're going to have a monthly finances budget, and then you're going to have a chart, and this is going to be the pie chart you're going to make. Okay, So how many of you guys have ever made charts with Excel? Give me a little raise your hands, or okay, Haley and Faye.
We do a monthly budget, and so
Stacy.
every month we get into Excel and update our stuff, and we use it all the time. I
Cool.
probably have a lot to learn in it though, but we use the basics in it a lot.
Well, do you do pie charts or regular column charts?
Both.
Okay, good. Because you're going to get to do both kinds. And the module 1, you'll do a pie chart. Module 2, you do a column chart. And then there's bazillions of other charts, a type of charts you can do, but those are the 2 mostly used. And I'm going to teach you the difference. The main difference in both of them is what kind of source material you have to select in order to get your chart to work. Okay, so that's the key to that one. And so that's 3 of you guys who have done charts before, and then 4 of you guys who have not. So that's pretty cool. They look fancy and awesome, but they take merely a click to make them happen, and they make things much easier to figure out. Because if I look at this, I can tell that whatever's blue is bigger or stronger or higher or more something than the rest, right? Versus if I look at these numbers, I'd have to really scour the numbers to figure out what that blue is, right? Versus here, if I look at the little key, I can see it says rent. So it's much easier to go over here and look at the chart to understand. It's the biggest expense is rent. So charts are really important, but putting out in the data is also extremely important, because one of the things that's going to happen with this assignment, and again, for those of you who are going to run out, let me stop you. Before I even teach you more, because of the people who are going to leave, I'm going to first explain to you the most common mistakes that people make. And one of the most common mistakes is how to select the pie charts. And so remember that to select data for the pie chart, you need to select 2 sets of data only. Okay, so I'll explain everything in detail. Everything, we'll practice it if you stay for Excel, but just remember that you need to select one whole column so that the chart notes what it is that the numbers mean, and then a whole nother column for the numbers that apply to it. And that is really the key to getting your pie chart. And I'll teach you how to get these non-adjacent ranges selected. So that's the place a lot of people have the most problems. So I'm going to explain that in case you don't know how to do that. And then the other thing that tends to be a big problem is that in Excel, when you make one mistake only at the beginning, so say you type 15,717 when you really had to type 14,17, it's just one little mistake. That's it. You just write a 5 instead of a 4, and then you have a mistake there, a mistake there, a mistake there, a mistake there, and a mistake there, because so many different calculations use that initial number, right? So if you start with $400 or with $4,000 in your bank account, you're going to end up being very different at the end of the month, right? And that's just a simple one little zero difference. So be very careful, because you might make a small mistake at the top and then end up with a whole cascade of errors in Excel that you need to go and pinpoint where that mistake was. A lot of people get really frustrated because at the end they go, oh, my numbers are different. And really, if you go find the one that was wrong, that fixes every single number at the rest of it, right?
Start with the beginning and double check down until
so
you
if your
find
numbers are wrong at the bottom, start actually looking at your numbers from the beginning. See if you made a typo mistake at the beginning. Stacy, you raised your hand a little bit ago.
You had asked a question and I forgot to lower it.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure you didn't have any other question. So that's the biggest issue. And then the other thing that you're going to have is that you're going to have to do some formatting. And this is styles, again, just like we did. Pay attention and scour the document, because basically if this is what it needs to look like and it looks like that, I mean, visually at first glance, they don't seem so different. But if you really pay attention, see how the bottom line has 2 lines here and 1 line there, how this font is bold and that is not, how this is blue and that is black. see at the top, quick glance, they look the same, but they really aren't. And so when you finish Excel, really scour the example that's on the page, on the second page of the document that, so basically page Excel. And when you open the textbook, here's the beginning of the chapter. As soon as you flip one page on this side, you always have the assignment that you're going to have to do. Scour your assignment to make sure that it looks exactly like what you have to submit before you submit it, and then submit, and then it'll help you, because minor as these things seem, it really will be hours later. You'll be looking at it, you can stare at it for hours and not really get what's wrong until you redo all the styles to figure out what you had done there. Okay, so that's just, those are the three typical the mistakes that people make. Like here, someone said footnotes or whatever was the problem. Those are the three main problems with this assignment for people. So now you're kind of forewarned to listen in for when I explain how to do these things correctly. If you don't know how to do styles in Excel, or select data in Excel, or correct things in cells in Excel, then stay for my explanation. Okay. All right. So here's there's 2 pages of a list of the things that we're going to learn with this assignment. You're going to enter text and numbers, and it's different how it works if you are writing text or numbers. We're going to create formulas by hand. We'll learn what a formula is, and we're going to make some handmade formulas. And we're also going to use the sum button. The sum button is an automatic way of adding things up. So we're going to get a chance to use the automatic way, and we're going to get a chance to do that by hand. And we'll also use the sum button to get automatic averages and mins and maxes and things like that. So that's stuff that we're going to learn today. We're going to copy material using the fill handle. If you've never heard of the fill handle, it's like the best thing since I guess, what is it, buttered bread or sliced bread or whatever the saying goes. In Excel, that fill handle is pretty magical. So I'm going to show you about that. Styles, but this time it's cell styles instead of words or types. We're talking about cells. We're going to be doing formatting of cells. We're also going to be creating pie charts, worksheet names, the worksheets that I was just pointing to, that's what they are. Changing document properties, and how to print and preview worksheets in Excel is quite different than how you do it in Word. Okay, how to calculate and correcting errors. So that's the main things that I'm going to be teaching you today how to do. If you think all of this is stuff that you got a handle on, then just go for it. Start doing your assignment either on your own, or just do it while I'm lecturing and keeping half an ear out, so that when you run into a problem, you can ask Katie. Reminder, sometimes I feel like I need to remind people, it's all 3 assignments, Excel text project and 2 SAMs that are due next week. And now what I want to hear from you guys is, how many of you, give me a little show of hands, how many of you guys have used Excel before extensively? Like, you've used it quite a bit. That doesn't mean you know everything, but you've used it quite a bit. So Faye and Stacy and Joe. I always find people who have a lot of experience. How many of you have used it, spotted here and there, that you've used it, but not really comfy with it? Katie and Joe and Julie still have their hands up. You can't do one or the other.
My mom does accounting with Excel stuff, and
she's super duper.
So I'm just like one of those, like, I know, but I know she knows more, so I can't say I'm the best.
Comparison.
No.
It's so fun. I don't know, you guys, how nice it is to be. I'm really generous and call myself middle-aged, and have my kids come up to me to ask me stuff about computers. The other day, something was coming up, but ask mom, she's the expert, when in the rest of the world, the kids are always the experts, right? So it's kind of point of pride that I get to still be the computer expert in my house. How many of you guys have never used Excel, ever? There's always someone, although in a class of 26, I don't know, in a class of 7. None of you have never used Excel. Okay. And how many have used it, like you've used Google Sheets or you used Excel at a very basic level, but you know that truly you don't really know much. Right. Well, Julie and Joseph still have their hands up. So is that new hands up or is that like, because I thought you had said that you also had used it as experts. Or at least Julie, I
I
thought.
thought those were new.
No. Okay. Oh, I'm still sharing. Okay. Okay, so Molly, you took a class a while ago. Oh, Julie, just put your hand back up. Okay, got it. So I'm not so much. So here's the thing. If a lot of people have used it a lot. So again, maybe Haley, you fall into this description where and I don't know, I'm just saying because you said you'd use it a lot. A lot of people have used it a lot, but they do some and they can be doing even some very advanced things at work, but they're very prescribed. It's this one thing you always do. You do it 25 times a month or one time a month, but it's very high level, but it's like these 5 steps, these 10 steps, and that's it. But if you had to do something completely on your own from the very beginning, you wouldn't even know where to start. Like many times people are given a chart and they learn how to do some pretty fabulous things, but that's it, like not knowing how to start from the beginning. Does that describe any of you guys? I'm looking at Faye saying that she's frustrated. Sometimes when you do a formula, but it doesn't work. Yep, we're going to be working with formulas. A lot of times it's the money symbol, which has to do with, yeah, I'll teach you guys. I don't even want to start
The
explaining.
money symbol is like the absolute formula. You'll learn about that.
You'll learn about
So-
that. So, but for a lot of people, and the basics that I've probably been doing wrong the whole time. Well, I don't know if you've been doing wrong the whole time or not, but we're going to get to practice a lot more and you all know what that little money symbol is. Is it assignment number 1, module 1 or 2 that we do the?
I think it's number 2.
I think
I'm
it
pretty
comes in-
sure.
yeah, I think it comes in number 2. Now I'm curious. Anyway, well, I think it's number 2 that we do the absolute references. But anyway, let me first explain if I start talking about absolute references before explaining what even a reference is, people will be way over their heads. Okay, so here we go. First of all, within Excel, you can have many different worksheets. So when you have a Word document, it's pretty much one set of information, right? If you have a different set of information, you would have a different document. It's just different files. But in Excel, you can have one document, which is called the workbook in Excel, with many different kind of sheets in there. So you can have a workbook, say, for your small business's finances, and it's just one workbook, but it has many sheets. One is your budget, one is your estimates, one is your expenses, one is your income, one is your, you know what I mean? You can have a lot of different sheets which contain overall all of your financial information in one file, considered and it's in a workbook. Okay, so it works pretty differently than it does with Excel. That isn't just other pages, it's actually different information. Only now and then, say that you're making a budget. Well, you need to know how much you pay rent, right? Or how much you pay in electricity or whatever. So what happens is in these different sheets that you have, there might be numbers that are related, right? So depending on how much you made that month is how you'll estimate your, whatever you're going to spend next month on. So amongst all these sheets, even though they're all individual pieces of information, you might need to then reference the income from one sheet to the total budget for the next year or stuff like that. So there's a way to reference all these different numbers, even though they are individually different pieces of information for your whole for your whole business. Now, when you're talking huge businesses, of course, you might have many more than one worksheet, but when you have a small business working, it might be that one workbook has all the numbers for all your information, and that's pretty cool. So the way Excel works, remember we talked about doing cell styles, and the way Excel works, we have cells, and each cell is a little box. And the important thing about these cells is that they all have names, and those names really matter. We'll learn why. But the way these cells are named is by the intersection of rows and columns. So you're going to have a whole set of columns, which are letters, and then you're going to have a set of rows, which are numbers. And so the intersection of this and this would be called 13H. And the intersection of this and this would be 15, I15, H, sorry, not 13H, H13, I15, J14, okay? And I'll show you this in Excel, but those numbers really, really, really matter. Those references, that's what we call that cell reference, really matters. And whenever you select a cell, you get this little box around it. So you can see that that's the one you're selecting. And see this teensy little box right there at the bottom right of this box? That thing is that famous fill handle or fill box that I was talking about. That's kind of magical in Excel. It does a ton of stuff. That's teensy little box, bottom right. Now notice that if you were to select a whole bunch of cells at the same time, you get one green box around one cell or one green box around a whole bunch of cells, and still only one little fill handle right there at the bottom. And this set of cells is called a range. So how you name a range is basically you name it by the cell that's at the topmost left through the bottommost right. So this range would be called H13 right there through, and you put in the semicolon, J15. And that's the name of this range. Okay, so we're going to have a chance to be selecting single cells or ranges of cells, and they for different functions. We're going to see this all in person, but I just want you guys to have this ahead of time in your knowledge. I also want you to know that you need to pay attention to your mouse. Your mouse is going to change shapes. So the pointer that you're moving around can either look like that or like that or like that. You know, it's going to have many different ways of looking. And those shapes mean something. Okay. It's different if you have the big fat plus sign or this, or the one that looks like a cross hand, what's the name of this? Anyway, like a plus sign, but
Plus sign, yeah.
there's also a name for when it looks like the place that you're
Oh.
aiming for. Suddenly,
Up. Oh, you're aiming for. Well, there's like an X across
Yeah.
a bullseye.
yeah. Anyway, sometimes it'll have two-headed arrows. Sometimes it'll be
I like
just
to
a
go like
blinking
that.
cursor, or it'll look like these 4 arrows. So
4
please
arrows.
pay
One that way, one
Pay,
that
I know.
way.
Pay attention
Can't
to
do it.
I know. Pay attention to the shape of your mouse. It really does matter. Also, you can move around with your arrow key. So look at your keyboard. And if you have one of those big extended keyboards, then you have a numbers pad, and then you have a whole bunch of arrows that go up and down. But if you have the small, I have both. Let me show you an extended keyboard here. So here's this, these are Mac keyboards, but same idea. An extended keyboard would be the one where you have the whole numbers pad here, and then these are the arrows, right? And you go up and down. You can navigate using all of these arrows and all of these numbers. But a ton of you guys really only have either a laptop. So if you have a laptop, this would be more like the keyboard that you have. So if you look over here, the numbers are at the top, and the keys for up, down, left, right tend to be down here mixed in there. So you can still do that with a non-extended keyboard. What I don't know, does anyone here today have a Chromebook? I know some people in class have a Chromebook, but I don't think it's any of you guys, right? I don't know, does a Chromebook have the arrows that go up and down?
I think it's a small one, but you can if you have a USB-C connector, you can plug in a
whole
normal
yeah.
keyboard.
Anyway. Okay, so basically we're
Okay.
gonna use
Joseph
those
does
arrow
have
keys
one.
and we're gonna, what's that?
Joseph in the
You'd have,
or in
oh
the
yeah,
chat.
there you go. I know someone here and yeah, they do have the keyboard, the arrows. So we're gonna be using those. Okay, now when we're done writing in all the information that we're gonna have, so this is basically, you're gonna be writing all of this information in first. And notice that when you write all this information, it's very hard to understand what's happening. It's a whole bunch of just small numbers. So formatting becomes really important in Excel to be able to more easily make sense of what's happening. Otherwise, this is just a whole bunch of numbers that are hard to distinguish. Okay, so this is what we call by cell styles. The information is the same, nothing changes, but it's actually making it look more, not only more attractive, that's the least of it, more easy to interpret what the totals are, what the differences are, what the numbers are. Okay, so that's what we're going to do when we apply cell styles. But more importantly, I don't know if you can tell, this is too small, but over here, notice that over here it just says 14,000 or 100 or 18,600, and you have no idea if they're talking about, I have, 100 belts or I have $100. There's no symbol here to tell you what this is. When you look down here, you can see that there's a dollar sign, and thus this is clearly cash versus this is interest. And so there's no symbol there. And so that's a different type of formatting that we did not have to do in Word. It's one thing to have it look, green or yellow or blue or all that kind of stuff, but it also matters. There's a different kind of formatting in Excel, which is what type of information are you giving me? Is it a zip code? It's a number, but you can't add up a zip code, or is it an address or a phone number, or is it dollars, or is it what, right? So that's that kind of formatting is the second kind of formatting we're going to learn in Excel. All right. So for now, instead of talking further, what I want us to do is to open up Excel, download a file that I have given you in Canvas. And we're going to use that to start learning the basics of Excel. So how many of you guys are going to stay for the lecture? I want a show of hands for everyone who's going to stay that I'll be speaking to, on how many of you guys are going to stay but work on your stuff and kind of listen in sideways. And how many of you guys are going to leave? You're welcome to do any of the above, but I just want to have an idea. So hands up right now are those who are going to stay for the lecture. And or if you tell me on the chat that you're going to stay for the lecture. Okay, so hands up if you're staying. If so, please open up our Canvas shell. And we're going to go and download a file that we can all use. Let me, I'm still waiting to hear what Stacy, Julie, and Molly are going to do. I hear that Haley, Joe, Faye, and Joseph are going to be staying for, like, paying attention to the lecture.
Stacy
Molly?
says she's staying and working, and Julie also says she's staying and working.
Okay, great. So now I'm sharing with you guys the Canvas assignment. If you head down to Zoom class recordings and download class presentations, I'm going to click on that. And we're going to head over to week 7. And here I have a sample file, Excel mod 1. And so since I am, when you're in Chrome, it just goes straight to Chrome. I'm in Firefox right now. It's asking me if I want to open it in Excel or if I want to save the file. I'm just going to go ahead and open it directly in Excel. But if you are downloading it first in Chrome, then over here, you'll see it once it finishes downloading. You can click on that. Actually, that was a bad idea. I said download, and guess what? It opened my actual personal Excel in my Mac computer, which is not what we want.
Yeah, we can't even see it.
Yeah. So I'm actually gonna have to click on that again and tell it instead to save this file. And it's gonna, oh, it's also trying to save it onto my real computer. Come on. I need you to save it in, oh, it's just that I didn't go. Okay, so I'm
You
gonna
weren't
have,
there.
I wasn't.
You were
in-
on your real computer.
I was on my real computer. So let me open up Google Chrome. Okay, so now I'm in VM, my brain. Okay, so sbcc.edu.
See,
It's
students,
this-
it's not just you.
No, the whole VDI thing is, okay, so here I am. I'm gonna go into Canvas inside of my VDI. Go into 101, and then I'm gonna go in here. Zoom class recordings. Week 7. And download this guy. Is this happening to you guys too?
That's what's said to me too.
I've had this before.
Yeah.
I have changed all these links again and again. It's driving me crazy. I keep changing those links.
Do you
I
have
don't-
to log into Pipeline first in there?
No, it's,
I mean, it shouldn't.
it tries to
but-
link you to the ones from last session. It's so weird. I have this problem having in my Canvas course that all the links I put up there, it tries, when I test them, they work. When I test them as a student, they don't, because it's trying to go to last session's version, and the last session's version works for me, but it doesn't work for you guys. So I need to go and fix that. So while you guys are hanging out and waiting, I'm going to have to fix this. So give me a second. While I'm downloading it, you can't see what I'm doing because I'm doing it outside. So meanwhile, go say tra la la, or take a quick 1 minute break or something. We come back.
I mean, we could do a short 5-minute break. Everyone grab a drink.
Yeah.
It's fun. We get to watch your mouse move around, but have no clue what it's actually clicking on.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're welcome to watch. I'm here. I'll share my whole screen. What I'm doing is
Yeah,
just that it's
no,
not so
it's just-
interesting. I'm
it's-
just
it
these are all
becomes
my
interesting.
class files, and so I'm going.
Yeah.
I'm on a Mac, and you guys are PC people.
Oh,
and
yeah, the
I'm
weird.
working all of the files. So sample.
It weirds
Excel
me out when it
file.
does that little angle thing.
I'm
Like
just
everything
putting
should be up and down.
So I'm gonna replace it with that one. I'm gonna put it up in here again. I'm gonna edit. It's a whole series of steps, but I had done this, and it's driving me crazy that it doesn't. I replaced every one of these files,
Mhm.
but it's not letting me do it. So I'm gonna delete that, and I'm going to relink it. Upload from here. God, what was the name of the file? Did I put it in the right place? Sample file, Excel.
Those are looking like 2020 files, but that doesn't
Yeah.
shouldn't matter.
Module 1, there we go. And I'm gonna put it in here. Click on it again and submit. It's coming in. So it's a whole process to put things in Canvas. And now save. And once I say save, okay, guys, try it again. Refresh your page, okay? So now I'm going to refresh the page. So to refresh, remember you have to do this little guy. And let's try one more time. Yay. Now it's working. Thing is, the way that files come in now, before we couldn't do that, but now it comes in and this is the file that we want. But I want it actually to download it instead of just seeing it. So now you have to click again to download it. And this time it'll download into. Okay. So now when I click on this guy right there, it'll just open up, and it'll open up Excel inside of VDI. And here we are. I will wait until I get a thumbs up that everyone managed to find the file. Okay, Faye says yay. Anyone else? Need to make sure everyone has this file. Wait for you guys to.
Joseph says yay.
Joseph says, yay, I'm choking on the last thing I drank. So while I choke here, you guys go ahead and do your thing.
Yeah, drink the water, don't inhale it.
I know.
Does it open up in Excel directly?
It's supposed to.
Yeah, mine didn't do that. It still says sample file. It shows still in the.
You want to share your screen? I'm doing one other thing here and can you share your screen, Katie? Can you help her? I'm changing a date on something that I noticed hasn't been updated yet. Give me a second. While you confirm that everyone has the right file. I'm noticing that the SAM needs something
Okay.
changed.
So now you need to hit the download sample file.
Oh, I just didn't do that.
Yeah.
Okay, then I can do
And
it.
that should, yeah, down there.
Thank you.
And wait, who was the other person that was talking? It was Julie. Julie, do you have any, we're downloading a sample file from the thing and they're going to be working on it. Did you need a direction somewhere that is? I forgot to put notes on who's actually working and who's not. Okay, good. You have the file. Or Joe has the file.
Actually, just Stacy and Julie say they're going to be working on their own projects.
Yeah. Cool.
I'm having a second here. I'm noticing that the dates for the assignments weren't correct. So while you guys do that. Oh my God. Sorry, I'm having issues with one of the files that is due next week. The date is wrong and it's not letting me fix it. So give me a second. I'll be with you guys in a second. There we go. Okay. All right. Does everyone have their files, guys? Yeah, you don't need the order of operations file yet. That one, I'll fix it while you guys are working. It's useful, but it's not important right now. It's actually more for next week when we have to create more complicated hand made formulas. Joseph, your hand is up. Is there any question there? Or is it just you have it? Does everyone have the file? Basically, does anyone not have the file yet? Okay. If anyone does not have the file, that would be the place. Other than that, here we go. Here's what you should have open in front of you guys. And I'm not hearing anyone saying they don't have it, so I'm gonna start. All right, so here we are. We have, God, I feel like I'm about to sneeze. My nose has been itching for a while. Must have some allergies going. So what we're looking at is an Excel spreadsheet. And these are those good old infamous cells that I was talking about. So when you click around, let me actually make, I'm noticing the window a bit smaller because some of you guys are sharing your window with your own work, and this makes it easier for you guys to see it. Okay, so if you click on any of this stuff, you're selecting a file, and notice that up here you get an F that is the row, the column that is selected is a bit darker and gray, and the 13 is a bit darker gray, which means that that's the two, this is the intersection of F and 13. So this cell is called F13. It is selected in that green little thing. That's that little box I was talking to you about. That's called the fill box or fill handle. And if you head over here, notice that it says F13. So the name of the cell is repeated here in the correctly named name box. Thank you. So when you select a cell, any cell, no matter if it has information in it or not, the number, the name or cell reference of that cell shows up here in the name box. As I do these things, especially if this is new for you at all, please do it. But even if it's not new for you, keep an eye on how, keep doing what I'm things, because I'm going to build up to certain things. And so I want you to have certain things done when I show you what I need you to do. Now, when you go select, remember I mentioned that when you select more than one cell, you end up having a range of cells. Now, remember the shape of cell, of mouse over here, it's looking like the big fat plus sign. Over here, it looks like a down arrow. Over here, it looks like a cursor. Over here, it looks like an arrow. Like, oh, it looks like so many different things, and I haven't, without even clicking, I'm just pointing to stuff without actually clicking on anything, and my mouse is changing. Now, when I have it looking like a big fat cross, that's when I can select something. So if I click and select one thing, if I click and drag, then I select more than one cell. Then I'm selecting a range. I can select and drag sideways and select a whole bunch over there. I can also select backwards. I can click here and drag up, or I can click here and drag sideways up. So whichever way I select, what I'm doing is I'm selected a range of cells. So what range am I selecting now? Can someone give me the name of this range based on what I said in the PowerPoint presentation? What's the name of this range?
E8 to F17.
Yep, you got it. Okay, if I look at the file name here, it only says E8, which represents the first box I clicked on. But this is a range, and a range of cells gets named from the front, bottom, okay, from the topmost leftmost box to the bottommost rightmost box. So what she said was right. This is an E8 through F17 range, and when you write it down, it needs the two dots, the semicolon, the colon in between them. So here's the thing. The curious thing is that one of these cells remains white and the rest go gray. That's the one that's the first one I clicked on. So watch, if I select this upwards, the bottommost one is the one that's white, and over here it says C17, but C17 is the bottommost one. The name of this range still is C13 through C17. You still always top with the top one. Does that make sense, you guys? So what's the name of this range now? Anyone want to call out the name of the range?
It's D7 through F15.
Perfect. Okay. So no matter that this is the one that's white, the one that I began clicking on, that means nothing. Now, when is that going to matter? Notice that colors and things change. You can't see colors yet, but when things are selected, they go kind of, this gray covers them and the colors change. So one cell not having color is going to be important when you're looking at formatting these things, when they go green and whatever, this is the only one that you'll see the real color. The rest are going to look weird because they're being covered in gray. So that's really the only utility of having one of these remain white. Other than that, it means nothing else. Okay. Now over here, you have the first sheet and it's travel expenses. We're going to work with this, but I don't want to work with it yet. I first want a blank page. So down here where it says sheet 1 and sheet 2, I'm going to double click on sheet 1, double click on the word sheet 1. It highlights. And now that it's highlighted, I can replace it and call this one travel expenses. So now I've given that a name. And when I'm done, I can just hit return or enter, and there the name has changed. So when you double click and you're in there, you have a cursor, you get to write whatever you want, and then you hit return or enter and you're done. You've sealed, it's the name of this sheet. Now I want to go to sheet 2. So I'm going to click on sheet 2. And in sheet 2, I have some formats happening here, which is, this is the same thing, by the way, that you see here is over here. And look how different it is just because of some formatting. Pretty interesting, right? It's the same data. Now we're going to end up here. You guys can use this as reference. So let's double click sheet 2 and call this one is a sample. Let's call it reference or something like that. Sample reference for you guys to, and then hit return and enter, because that's the stuff that you'll end up doing. But now I want us to learn and play around a little bit. So I want us to create one more sheet. And if I go back here, here I have the initial ones. Here I have this one that's how it's going to look at the end. Now let's create a new sheet here by clicking on this little plus sign. And when I click on the plus sign, I get another sheet. And it starts called sheet 1. These aren't called sheet 1 and 2 anymore. They have names. So this one's again sheet 1. Let's double click on this one and call this one random, because we're just practicing stuff on random. So everyone's got their 3. Oh, thank you, Katie, in the chat for putting in the naming of the range. So everyone has 3 sheets now. Before we go much further, let's save this file because you have 3 sheets, but the file is still called sample file Excel module 1. And if you're going to not save it in the right place, it's going to disappear. So let's head over to file and save. Oh, because it already has a name. You really going to have to say file and save as. And where we're going to put this is in your saved, in your S drive. So we're going to hit this PC, double click on this PC. And I like making this bigger to show you guys. And then under this PC, we're going to open that up, find your S drive. Oh, I'm using my, okay. This account is my student sample account, but my son is a sample student, but he's not a sample student. He never got a student drive because he's not a real sample student. He's not a real student. So I don't have an S drive, but you guys find the S drive here and save this to your S drive comp Excel folder. Okay. So it doesn't disappear. All right. And that's all we can do about it. Okay. So then to go from the file back to the data itself, we click this little arrow. Don't make a mistake of clicking this one. If you click this one, you're going to leave VDI. If you leave VDI, don't panic too much because this happens all the time. If you click on that one and leave VDI and you end up here, just click again on student's desktop and it'll let you in. That's the only one of those like VDI issues that's it's a bummer because it's got an arrow just right above where we want it. But anyway, so we click on this one and we return to the data portion of it. Okay, so here we have a whole bunch of cells. The rows on top, A through bazillions of letters. Now, you know that's not true because the alphabet doesn't have bazillions of letters. So what happens is that, and I'm going to go down here to where you see this arrows, and I'm going to go to the right to show you what happens that once you reach the Z, X, Y, Z, then it starts again. And now it says AA, AB, AC, AD, AV. So that's how you get more letters. Once you get to AZ, then it starts with BA, BC, BD, BD. So it goes on and on and on. There's like ridiculous amounts of available rows and ridiculous amounts of available numbers. And I'm saying ridiculous amounts because I don't know, it changes with every version. It's humongous. It's not infinite, but it's humongous amounts of cells and rows that are available. Rarely do you need that many. But there is an end to how many are available. I don't remember how. If someone likes data and details, you can just find out how many cells are available right now. But it's definitely in the millions of cells. So when you want to select all of those cells, the entirety of those bazillions of cells, then you can put your mouse right here in this little corner in between A and 1 and click once, and every single cell in this sheet, used or not used, in this sheet, not in the entire workbook, but in this sheet, have now been selected. Does that make sense? So even if I've got, 400 rows of data, all 400 rows of data are going to change to, for example, if I make them all red, or even up to, letter Z or whatever, they'll all turn red. Okay. So that's for when you need to format everything at once. So that's a good thing to know. Now, when you just kind of click on one of these cells, the rest of the selection disappears. So say I select all of that, and then I want to select this. Well, that first selection disappears. And then if I want to select that, that selection disappears. So every time you select something, the old selection disappears. So now what if I did want to select that and not have that selection disappear, right? So say if I want to select that and this, so this is very easy to select contiguous files. Contiguous means files that are next to each other. Top, bottom, bottom, right. It's easy to select contiguous files. But if I want to select non-contiguous files, thus this plus that, then I need to hold down, if you are on a PC, the control key and click the second key. So I keep the control key held down and I select the second one, and I keep the control key held down and I select another one. I keep it held down and I select another one. So now I've selected these 4. Okay. Once I'm done selecting the 4 that I want, I can let go of my mouse, and now all 4 of those have been selected. And now if I choose to make them all something, I'm going to highlight them, then they all go yellow or something. Okay. It doesn't matter what, it's just the fact that they're all selected non-contiguous. So once again, if you are on a PC, you click on one thing, hold down the control key, which is to the left of your space bar, like 2 times removed on the bottom. And then you keep clicking away. Now you can also add a whole range and a whole nother range and a whole nother range. Okay. So that's how you select non-contiguous. If you're on a Mac, it's the command key that you click to do this, not the PC. Now, why does this matter? Remember that if you wanted to make a chart, I'm going to move back to the travel expenses here. If I needed to select data to make that final chart, you have to be able to select this stuff here, hold down the control key, and then select that stuff there. And we're not going to make a chart of this right now, but I'm showing you how to select 2 separate ranges, okay, to then make your chart. We're not, I guess we could make it right now. We haven't taught some of the basics, but why not? Go and select from San Francisco to Boston, hold down your control key and select March, top row of numbers through bottom row of numbers. So now you have all that data selected. So I'm kind of going backwards, teaching you the selection. Then you can go and create a chart. So how do you do that? You go over to insert. You have a whole bunch of different types of charts that you can insert. We're going to head over to pie chart, click on a pie chart, and we're going to go ahead and put in a basic pie chart. And there it is. This pie chart that's how simple it was to make it. And it's showing me San Francisco through Boston as the key. And it's telling me what were my expenses during the month of March. So basically my biggest expense was when I stayed in this orange chunk, and I looked down there and, oh, orange is Los Angeles. So that was the biggest expense. The second biggest expense was this green one. And that looks like that was when I was in Dallas. Okay. So anyway, if I look at the numbers, yeah, LA 8,800 and Dallas 8,500. So that's right. Okay. All right. So now this chart here kind of can be grabbed and floated. But before I continue with this, did anyone try to make this chart and was unable? Did you try to select the files and were not able to select the non-contiguous files? Any questions?
Mine worked.
Okay, Stacy, Faye, Julie, Joseph, Molly. You're all okay with selecting that? I usually want anyone who hasn't been able to do it to tell me, but I'm gonna give you another moment to.
Can we do it one more time? I'm sorry.
That's fine. So I want everyone to do this one more time, in fact, to practice. So how do you get rid of this chart? Make sure to click on it so that you see these little handles and then hit the delete key on your keyboard and boom, the chart is gone. You have not lost the data, you've lost the chart. That's okay, then click away and you have no selection. So the key in making charts is selecting. Next week, you'll have a different kind of chart you're going to make to select stuff, but this week is the pie chart can only take 2 sets of data. 2 sets of data total for a pie chart. You can't have, all this data select for a pie chart. Pie charts are very simple. So this is one set of data, which is the cities. And this is one set of data, which is March. But when I select one, the other one disappears. So in order to keep both selected, I have to select one, hold down the control key, keep it pressed, and then go from San Francisco to Boston. I don't want any extra selections or anything. If you select this wrong, say that you selected like that, or you selected like that, and you got something wrong, you can't fix it. You just click somewhere, get rid of that selection and try again. And go from here to here, hold down control, and from here to here. Make sure not to try to fix a selection, rather redo it. Okay. Molly, how are we doing with the selection of the non-contiguous data?
I got it.
Okay, great. But remember that this is a good time to share your screen if you're having issues or not getting it. This is the time when we're learning. Okay, so now you select both sets of data and then we go to the insert. And in this case, we chose a 2D chart, or I'm gonna go for a 3D pie chart this time to make it a little bit fancier, but it's the same. It's like, woo, look at this awesome thing I did. Now, notice that when it comes up, it's floating above my data. So Molly, did you get your chart now?
I did.
Cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, this data is kind of covered by my chart. I can move it here and there, but especially if you have a small window, it's kind of uncomfortable. But notice how I put my mouse on just this blank area of the chart and I can move it around. So what they're going to ask you to do in the assignment is to not leave it floating like this. They're going to ask you to create a new sheet that's just for the chart. Okay. There's a couple different ways to do that. I'm trying to remember. I think the one that they have you do in the assignment is to just go
They
up to
ask
the
you to
move
click.
chart.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, good.
Point that one out.
So select your chart, make sure you have it selected, and then look at my mouse. I'm still in the insert chart mode. Okay. And I've inserted the chart and the final choice is move chart. Okay. So if you're not in this insert chart mode, if you click away, you'll notice that there's nothing here that's showing me chart. And that's because the chart is not selected. Once you click the chart, then you get the chart tools and you can either design or format. And we're going to just stay in design. And at the back end of design, you can move chart. You click on that and it's asking you, where do you want the chart to be placed? Do you want it on a new sheet? Yep, we want a new sheet because that's what the assignment is going to ask you to do instead of having it floating here. So click new sheet. It's probably going to ask you to give it a name. I don't remember what name. So let's just say chart name, because I don't remember what name you're going to have to give it. We're inventing the chart name. And then we're going to say, okay. So now if you look down here, you have a new sheet that's just the chart. So you have the travel expenses, the sample reference I told you about, you have the random, which we haven't written anything in yet, and you have the chart name. That said, yeah, my nose keeps tickling. I feel like I want to sneeze. Nothing worse than a sneeze that you need to sneeze and it doesn't happen and it kind of stays there. 1 second. I'm sneezing, but not sneezing. So this next thing I'm going to teach you probably is not part of the assignment, but maybe it is, I don't know, but I don't want to leave the chart in front of my travel expenses. I would rather first see my travel expenses and then say my chart, but these things are movable. So I'm going to grab this one that says chart name and drag it, and see this little arrow that's popping in here. It's this tiny little arrow. Once I have it where I want it, I'm going to put it right there and I'm going to let go. And there I've just moved my chart. So now my travel expenses is still the first, sample reference is the nicest chart name. I don't think the assignment asked you that, but I just wanted to let you know that you don't need to live with any of these where they are. You can just move it around. Now I'm going to move it right there and leave it there. Okay. All right. Before we continue, any questions about that? Did you all move your chart successfully? Yep. Everyone's happy. All right. There's more work to do with charts. And I believe in module 2, you're going to work quite a bit with this chart. You know, your titles, you can do other stuff. But for now, I'm going to leave that there. And let's head back to our random style, random sheet, the one that we created that we haven't yet written anything on. All right. So we're going to start doing some stuff in here. And the first thing I want us to go is to go to A1. A1 is the first top right column. And so we're going to select A1. And when I write something, it's going to come out really small right now. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to notice that I'm seeing about 37 rows and up to O. I'm going to go in down here where it says minus and plus, and I'm going to make this bigger. So I'm just increasing the size. Now, this has nothing to do, once again, like in Word, with how much is being, how big this is being printed. It's just a zoom allowing me to see things bigger, especially now that I'm teaching. So I'm moving it up and I'm only seeing now 20 rows and up to letter H so that I can show you better. You don't have to make it this big. I'm trying to make it bigger so you'll see what I'm writing. In A1, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to write a number 1. And notice that I write a number 1 and the number appears and then I have a cursor. It used to be a blinking cursor. It's not blinking anymore, which I wish it still were. It's not blinking anymore. Then I'm going to add a 0 because I want a 10 and see how the cursor keeps moving. Now notice that my mouse over here still looks like this big fat cross, but if I put it over here, it's already looking like an insertion point because I am writing things in this cell. But the other place that I see the number 10 is also up here. This here is called the formula bar. You'll see why once we start writing formula bars, but notice that I'm writing a 10 over here and a 10 is appearing over here. Now I'm going to go ahead and write the number 100 and see how that shifted to 100 and this is still 100. So the cursor keeps moving forward. I'm going to now back it up by deleting one of these zeros and ending up again with a number 10. And then I'm done. That's what I wanted. I wanted a 10 in this number, in this cell, I mean. So in order for this number to be confirmed and committed to this cell, I have to do something. And there's 4 things you can do, depending on what you're doing next. You choose one or the other. If you want to do the next number, usually you write a number, you want to write more numbers. In Excel, it's very difficult to write a ton of different numbers in a row, or one in each column or one in each row. So if you want to move down, so you can keep writing down here, you would now hit your return or enter key. So I'm going to hit my return or enter key. And my number had something happen to it, and my selection had something happen to it. First of all, my selection moved down to A2 because I hit the return key. But the number, you notice that it had been written there, and suddenly it shifted over to the right. Okay, so that's because this is a number, and Excel treats numbers as, by default, it doesn't know if it's a zip code or if it's a dollars number. It's just a number. So numbers get written aligned right. Because you know how when you add 10 plus 100, you would have to align them right. So let's try that out. Here, let's write 100 and then hit return again. And see, now that makes sense, because if I want to add the tens and the hundreds and the, you know, all that kind of thing, that makes sense to put them in that mode. Over here, I'm going to write 1000 and hit return again. And there you go. It still keeps aligning right. Now, I know that some of you guys know this, but do write these things down, especially if you don't know them, because I'm going somewhere with these numbers. Now, if I'm done and I don't want to keep writing things down here to the right, I can also select a cell with my mouse. Like I'm going to cell B1. And now I'm going to write 100 over here. And this time, I actually want to head over to C1. So if I want to head over to C1 and I hit return, I'll end up in B2. So if I want to end up in C1, what I need to do is hit the tab key. My tab key moves me over, select, ends my B1 entry and moves me over to C1. And the tab key is on the left side of your keyboard over here. I think we've all used the tabs during Word, but just in case, that's the tab key down here. I know you guys mostly have keyboards that are PCs, but where the keys are in keyboards is the same if it's a Mac or a PC. Doesn't matter. Whoops, my mouse got horribly entangled. I don't know how come and why, but let me untangle. I still have a wired mouse here because my wireless mouse was doing weird stuff last week. Okay, so that's how you move to the right. You move by doing tabbing. So I'm going to hit a tab. I'm in C1 and I'm going to write 1000 and hit tab one more time. And now I've got, let me go for 10,000 and hit tab again. Okay, so I have a couple of sets of numbers here. And if I can keep going to the right forever or to the bottom forever when I hit enter. Now, let's notice the difference. Let's head down to about A9 or something like that right here. Start with A9. Look what's going to happen. I'm going to put in, I'm not going to do A9 because some people think it has to do with that it's at the beginning. I'm going to start somewhere way over here in the middle of nowhere. I'm going to start with E10. Okay. And I'm going to scroll over a little bit. I'm starting in E10. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to write the number, I don't know, 56. And then I'm going to tab and write 78. And I'm going to tab and I write 99, 900, whatever. The numbers are meaningless. I keep tabbing. So I've created a pattern. Excel loves patterns. So now I've written 4 numbers and 4 rows, 4 columns. I've 1 number on each column. Remember that when you hit return, I told you go under, right? Well, as long as I don't change anything in this pattern, I've just written 4 numbers in a row and 4 columns in a row. When I hit return now, look where my cell went. It didn't go right under my 43 as before. It went all the way over to that first one that I wrote. And now I can write some more numbers and then write a few other things and a few, I write some letters there and a few other things and then a few other things. And then I can hit return and see that really allows for data entry. As you can see, it's really remembers the pattern that we just created and it keeps repeating that pattern. Everyone do that and then tell me if it's working for you. And when I have a big class, invariably someone says it's not working for them. Now I have so few of you that I might not have such a good sample here, but there might be some of you guys for whom it doesn't work. And if so, please I'll tell you why it can maybe or not work. How are you doing? Is it working for you guys? Give me thumbs up. And it doesn't matter that if it was 4 or if it was 2, it's the pattern that you establish is what it keeps repeating. Now watch. I'm going to go ahead and try to do this again. I'm going to go tab, tab. And now instead of keeping tabbing, I'm going to select something else. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to select this and then I'll go, oh, no, I didn't really mean to do that. Oh, my nose. I'm sorry. I'm about to sneeze and I can't sneeze. It's driving me crazy. I just want to sneeze. Sorry about that. Okay. So now I've interrupted the pattern. See how I've clicked on something else? It doesn't matter what I did. I just interrupted that pattern. If I go back here now and try to write another number and then try to write a number over here, if I hit return right now, it only picks up on this new pattern, which is I wrote a number here and a number here, and it tries to go there. Does that make sense? Because I interrupted the pattern. That's Excel keeps what's that? Is someone saying something?
I don't hear
I was hearing
anything.
something. And I have a weird thing. So basically it memorizes and it tries to help you by doing more of what you were doing. And so the last thing I did was these two. It's like it forgot that I had done the rest. And now I would have to recreate that pattern for it to keep doing it. Otherwise, right now, it's going to still only keep doing those 3. Does that make sense, you guys? If you're writing in and entering data, keep the pattern going until you're done with all your data and it'll work. But if you interrupt and then go and fix this because it was supposed to be 54 and then you try to come back and keep that going, you'll have to start the pattern again by starting from the beginning and trying to repeat. Okay, any questions about that? Did everyone get it to not continue the pattern now? Yeah, I have to explain that because from some people it's really confusing. Like how come sometimes it doesn't, how comes it doesn't? And it's based on the fact that you can't interrupt the whole process or Excel forgets and now remembers your new pattern. Now there's a lot, Excel is a lot about patterns to try to help you. What it does is it tries to pick up on what you do and tries to do more of it. Anyway, let's keep those numbers there. Let's scroll back and you can either scroll back with doing this and going up. I just want to make sure you end up back into our A1s with our hundreds and our thousands. And now I want you to head down over here-ish, like 7A. And what we're going to do next is we're going to write a word. So first we're going to write hello. And the word hello, just like the number 10, 100 starts on the left side. Now I want to go under, so I'm going to hit return. And notice that the hello stays on the left side. And that's because numbers by default get right aligned and words get left aligned because usually we start words and sentences on the left. So by default, the computer knows that this is a word and not numbers. And so it goes to the left. Now go ahead and write hello there. And then hit return again. And then write hello there, comma, how are you? Question mark. And then hit return. All right. So as you can see, I am writing words and the first one fits fine into my cell. The second one goes over a little bit into column B. And the third one kind of moves all the way into column C, right? And Excel is happy to let me write it. There's no issue. It's like, boom, it just wrote the whole thing out. Now, let's see if it's really being that generous or what's happening. Let's go ahead and decide that in B, here in column B, 9, I wanted to write some numbers and say that in B9, I want to write the number 10. Then if I want to go down to the next cell, I hit return. And notice that I have a little bit of overlap there. And I'm going to hit and write the number 10 again. See, I wasn't really using that cell. Excel was letting me use it because there was nothing there. But once I write something in there and I'm going to hit return, then it kind of chops that off. So over here, it seems like it says, how are you? But in reality, the cell has nothing in there. If you notice, hello there, how are you, is all written in A11. In B11, there's nothing there. I can write 10 again and hit return, and it takes its proper space inside of B11, and hello there gets truncated, okay? So Excel is happy to let you write whatever you need to write as long as there's nothing else in there. But if something else occupies that space, then this gets cut off, okay? So let me know if you all got this same effect before I continue to tell you how to fix this. All okay? All right. So here's the thing. Let's head over to travel expenses. You might have paid attention or not to the fact that this is already happening here. San Francisco, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, right? So there's two things that we can do to fix this. One thing we can do to fix this is look at this line in between columns A and B, and we can fix that ourselves. We can see my mouse, when I put it in between these two, it turns into this double-headed arrow. I can click and drag to make it bigger and let San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Philadelphia all fit in just fine. I can make it even bigger. Or I can make it really tiny. So notice that Atlanta is missing a number here. So Atlanta keeps flowing over, but the rest do not because they have numbers in B. Okay, now, what if I have 200 rows of data of 200 cities? Then I wouldn't be able to by hand figure out which is my longest row because I wouldn't know if there's maybe a name down there that's bigger than San Francisco, right? So if we want the computer to automatically assign the biggest width there is, then put your mouse in between A and B, just like we did before, but instead of dragging it open, just give it a double click. And when you double click, the computer chooses to go as wide as the widest thing, which by the way, is not San Francisco. What's the widest thing in this row? In this column, I'm sorry.
Travel expenses.
Yeah, notice that travel expenses was also part of this column. In fact, it's the very first thing, and travel expenses is really what got resized here. It so happens that it doesn't leave too much size extra than San Francisco. It looks like it resized to that, but not really. It resized to this. Now watch over here. There's a lot of extra space here. If I double click between B and C, it's going to get much smaller so that it doesn't waste a lot of space. Does that make sense? Double click and it'll resize itself to fit as much as it needs to fit. So that little double click is an auto width. Okay. And that really saves you for when you can't see stuff. Now you can still pull it out yourself. And again, as I said before in the book, it'll tell you sometimes to do it by hand and sometimes to do it with an auto or double click. And it's the kind of thing that they can tell because of the way computers can tell if you actually did an auto width or you didn't. So in the exam, that'll tell you to hand make the column wider, or auto width is the name. Auto width, use the auto width or widen it automatically or something like that in order to get the thing to automatically go to the best size it needs to go to. So those are the two ways to do that. Now, if it did or didn't work for someone, let me know. Otherwise, let's head back to random. And anyone has any questions about that? Okay. So how about, actually, let's keep doing this in travel expenses for a minute. Let's go back to travel expenses. My last, I have one more thing to say about this one. What if this travel expenses was much bigger? What if this title was way longer? And let's make that way longer. And how do I do that? The data is already in there. How do I make more data happen here? So I'm going to click on travel expenses. And I really want to give this a much longer title. I want to call this travel expenses for salespeople in 2010. I'm just inventing something, or 2021. So there's a couple different ways to add more data to a cell that already has data. Very simple. One way is to just click on the cell and then just go over here, click into the formula bar and keep writing travel expenses for salespeople in 2021 or 2020, because 2021 March hasn't happened yet. So I kept writing in here, and I'm just using this whole thing to write. Okay. And then when I hit enter, I get travel expenses for salespeople in 2021. Since there's nothing else in B1, it keeps writing. But now I've written such a long title. Look what happens if I go between A and B and double click. So now that's what happened to my initial column. And I really don't want all that extra space. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So that double click works fine when it's data that matches, but it's always a bit confusing for titles tend to not want to fit within what the actual data needs. So this is when it's good to be able to double click. And then in this case, we can bring it back by hand so that it matches San Francisco. So then we have a couple of other issues. What if for some reason I really need to have this fit a certain size? So what if I really can't have this, and I'm going to make it as big as travel expenses? What if I can't have it extend that far? Well, then plan B is to have all of these words fill the same width, in which case it's going to have to wrap. It's going to have to get wider, like the column row 1 is going to have to get really fat. Does that make sense? So that it says travel expenses for salespeople in 2020. You can't do that in Excel. You can't like travel expenses return for salespeople return in 2020. It'll just write it all in 3 different cells. So in order to get all of this text to be able to be in one cell, we need to select that row, that cell, I'm sorry. And then we're going to head over here to where it says, where's word wrap? Right here. One above to where it says A, B, C, and this is called wrap text. You click on this and it wrapped the text. It fit the text into one box. It had to make, of course, something has to give. You can either be long or fat or tall or whatever this is called. So it had to make this be a much taller, let's say, cell instead of a much wider option. Okay. Now you can go in there and change or add more things. Travel expenses for salespeople that worked in 2020 or something like that. And there you go. It kind of had to resize itself again to give you even a bit more space. But since you made it wrap, that works. Does that make sense? Did that work for everyone? So you have to choose. You're going to have to choose whether you need it to go over, or you need it to go tall. All right, there's one or the other. All right. Let's head back to random. So over here, clearly you would have to choose whether you need to make this much wider so that hello there, how are you would fit, or you'd have to choose to wrap it. And in this case, since I don't want this to get this huge size, I'm going to have to wrap it. So I can select all three of these. So you can select and do formatting things to multiple cells at a time. I'm gonna select all three of these. And right now hello fits, but just in case I either put something else in there, I'm gonna select all three of them and I'm gonna go click wrap to all three of them. And so then hello and hello there and hello there, how are you? All got a different width or a different height, cell height. Does that make sense? So that they all fit and leave the column width being just right. Okay, so that's the whole column width and height. And now, time, a couple more things. Up until now, there's been no formatting. Right now, we're still using just bare numbers. But as far as Word is concerned, it doesn't know if this is 10 books, $10, apartment number 10. I mean, it has no idea, right? It's just the number 10. So if you look up here, okay, it says the word general. Under the word number, see this area here? It says number, it says general. In Word, when we were working with Word, you had two types of formatting. You had the font where you could make it bold, italic, colorful, all that kind of thing. That's same as Word. There's one new thing here that I haven't shown you yet, but the rest of it is the same as Word. And you had alignment, which was, you know, align left, align right, align the middle, and a lot of that. Now you have a couple new ones like wrap, text. There's a few good ones. But you also have these three, because this was before you could align left or align middle or align right. We did that with text. Watch here, that's what's selected. Am I aligned left? I can force a number to go to the left or to the middle or to the right. But see how tall this cell is now? I can also make it go tall, middle, or bottom. And that's what these three are. So right now I have a choice of left align, middle align, right align. So I'm going to choose middle align. And then over here, by default, I have bottom, middle, or top. So I could be doing left and top, or middle and right, or right and bottom. There's a whole combination, or center and center. So now I've centered that number on both. Does that make sense? Any questions yet? All right, good. Okay, so that's this kind of alignment here. By the way, you can move numbers to different rotations. You can do a whole bunch of other stuff, but play around with those later on your own time. They're not necessarily that important right now. I want to teach you about this right here, the number formatting, because this is formatting, this is formatting, this is also formatting, and this is completely new. This does not exist in Word. It says, what type of number are you putting in there? For example, is it money? Is it percentages? Is it dates, right? So right now, the fact that it doesn't know is when it doesn't know, it just calls it general. So let's go ahead and choose A1 and leave A1 as general. Then let's go to B1, that 100 there. And let's change that to this little number, dollar sign here. And notice that when I hover over the dollar sign, there's a question mark there, but not a question mark, an arrow with more choices. But right now, let's just click on the dollar sign, period. And look at what happened when I add the dollar sign. You get not only the dollar sign, but you also get the decimal points. You get a period or a dot and 2 decimal points. Now let's select this C1, and we don't want the dollar sign, but we do want decimal points. So I'm going to click on this comma, And the comma gives me the decimal points, including the little 1 comma and decimal points, but without the dollar sign. Now, let's go ahead and turn this into percentage. So we are basically telling the computer what type of number we are making here. Now it knows how to deal with these numbers. Okay, so there's more to this, but watch this last one. Let's go back to the one that has a dollar sign. So let's select this one. Notice that this one here, let's make this a much bigger, wider column. So let's pull the one that you put the dollar sign on and make it a wide column. And notice that the dollar sign stays way far from the number. No matter if I double click and make it smaller, it approaches it, but if I make it bigger, it leaves some space. Look at what it says up here now. It doesn't say general more, it says accounting. The number format that says accounting forces the dollar sign to separate itself versus, now I told you there were different kinds of numbers. There's a ton more. But if you click up here where it said accounting, there's another, this is accounting, and there's another one called currency. Let's click on currency. And look at what happened. The dollar sign jumped to the side of the 100. Now, I go accounting and the 100 moves over. Let's select all of these and make them accounting and make it fat. And see that space that happens there versus if I make it currency. Now, why would this help? Imagine that you're working on a spreadsheet and you have a ton of numbers and how uncomfortable it is to add this number up with this little dollar sign appearing all the time. It's really visually very confusing, right? So what you're going to find in the homework, they're going to have you put the dollar sign at the very top only, and then you won't be putting the dollar sign, a whole bunch of other numbers, and then you will again on the total. That's to avoid a whole bunch of confusion. But sometimes you do need this. What if I'm designing a menu or a price list and you want to give this to the public? Then it would be really weird to tell someone that this costs $100 and have the dollar sign way over there and this dollar sign over here. So this is the choice for when you need it to look a certain way, but when you need to use those numbers functionally to add up and stuff like that, and then you're going to have this accounting format, which kind of leaves the dollar sign hovering over at the end instead of having it over here. Okay, let's go ahead and select this entire column. How do you do that? Instead of just this range, I'm going to select the entire column. So I'm going to go to the A and click one time, and now my entire column is being selected all the way down to bazillions of rows. Okay, so every single thing I have in here is going to change. And so say I change all of this to being, for example, red text or whatever color text, then you know that everything else that's in here is always going to be red. That makes sense to you, right? So imagine right now that if I write something in here, what color do you think it'll come out? It'll come out red because I had pre-formatted this entire column. Does that make sense? I had pre-formatted it versus this one here is going to come out black because I had not pre-formatted it in any way, shape, or form. Same thing with this information here. Here, I had formatted B1, but I didn't format B2. So if I go to write something in B2, say I write 200 in B2, it's going to still come out as 200. So if what I want is for anything that gets in this column to be 200, then I can't just format one cell or another cell. I have to format the entire column. So now I go back and I call this accounting, and then anything else that shows up here gets affected, but notice that the text doesn't, because there's no way for the, it doesn't suddenly acquire a dollar sign, but any numbers that are there will. And if I now go and write something way in here and I write the number 400, then it'll also have acquired that because I had pre-formatted the entire column. Does that make sense? It also works here left. If I want to click on the number 13, and anything that's in row 13 will be formatted. Maybe what I'm going to choose is that anything in format 13 be green. Right, so now I've made, and it's a very dark green, so you can't see it. Let me make it a powerfully bright green. And there you go. So now my numbers on row 13 are all going to be that numbers because I clicked on the number or click on the letter. Okay, now if you only wanted to affect a few things, then you have to select a range. Okay. Any questions yet regarding this kind of stuff? Okay, there's one more thing here that I need to show you with formatting, which is the decimal points. So notice that another thing that's really busy is that if you say to someone, well, this costs $10, you probably don't write .00 or 100 00 or 1,000 00. It's probably that $1,000, right? So when you want to have numbers rounded up, then you can go here to this place where you see decrease decimals or increase decimals. So I'm going to decrease the decimals. I don't want to see the zeros here. So I'm going to click and one time and it went down to 10 and I click another time. And now it's decreased the decimal points to just say 1, 100 or 1,000. But what happens if this was, if this thing that I purchased, everyone go ahead and write over here under this, go ahead and write, this cost $100.35, hit tab, or $100.75 and hit tab. So I have two different sets of numbers here, right? Now, by the way, I'm gonna format this also as I think this one was currency. It doesn't matter if it's, it doesn't really matter if it's currency or if it's dollars. This that I'm going to show you right now is all about, let me just say general again, it doesn't matter. It's all about the decimals. So watch what's going to happen. Over here, when I click on 1,000, it says 1,000. When I click on 135, it says 135 in the formula bar, 175, 175. So now I'm going to round these down by hitting the decrease decimal points. And I'm going to go ahead and push them down and look what happened. 100 rounded down to 100. That was 100.35. And 101 rounded up to 101, which is fine. But if you have too much rounding up, you end up getting like mistakes in the numbers. But so look how exciting. In here, it still says 175. And the 100 still says 135. So visually, this got simplified. But if I use these to add something up, this will still count as 100.75, and this will still count as 100.35, because in the real cell, it has the real number. This is just to make it a visually simplified number. Does that make sense? Go ahead and do that yourselves and see if you have any questions. No? All right, so I've shown you lots of little tricks and intricacies and quirks of Excel. Let me show you two more important things. Let me look and see. There's two more things that I need to show you that really matter for this assignment. One of them, let's scroll down. Let's kind of go down to a place where there's a bit more emptiness here. I'm going to get rid of this 400. Here's the thing. If you want to delete something in Excel, it's the safest way to delete things, especially on a Mac or a PC, is to select the cell And one of the safe things to do is to go to your keyboard and hit the delete key, and that disappears. It's a bit different what happens in the keyboard on a Mac or on a PC actually, but that kind of works. Let me show you where people run into trouble is over here. See how it says delete here? If you go delete something, so say that I decide to delete this, just watch this. Say I decide to delete this and go over here and hit the delete key. Just you guys watch over here. I'm going to hit this delete point. I'm going to delete and see what happened. It didn't really leave me a blank cell. It actually moved everything up. It replaced that cell. It's like as if you had 3 balls in water. You take the top ball, the other 2 float up, right? So all of these floated up and took that space, which can cause absolute havoc. I'm going to undo that in a spreadsheet. Imagine here in travel expenses, if I suddenly decide to delete this number by using the delete key, then boom, suddenly it would seem like Atlanta and Dallas got numbers that didn't belong to them. So you have to be very careful using this delete over here. If you want to clear it out, hitting the delete key on your keyboard is better, or you can head over to this little eraser here that says clear, and then you can just say clear all, clear contents, and then that empties it out. But don't hit the delete. That's a weird key and it's a misnomer and it causes a lot of heartaches, because imagine that you have a whole bunch of names here, your customers, and these are their addresses. And then suddenly you delete a customer's name, but you don't delete their address. And next thing you know, every one of your customers has the wrong data and they all live in a wrong place, and you send them letters and it's an absolute disaster. So try to avoid that delete key as much as you can, unless it's the bottom row, because if I delete this, it doesn't matter because nothing else gets affected, right? But that's rare. So most of the times you don't want to use the delete key. Okay, any questions about that? All right. So the last few things that are really important that I want to teach you today are the following. Head over to some, in the random sheet, head over to some blank area, and I'm going to scroll down to like row 16 or something like that. Well, scroll down a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to keep going until I have a real blank area, because I made my cells so big, so everything is way up there. So I'm going to put this somewhere in the middle. Make this row is so much wider that it's going to be weird for this example. So I'm going to reduce the size of these so they all look a little bit similar. Okay, so somewhere in the middle, I'm going to go ahead and write the number. Let's be a bit more original. I'm going to write the number 50. Now, I just clicked somewhere else. That's also an appropriate way to seal the deal and get that 50 to continue to be in there. But what if I wanted to change it? Well, I showed you if this is supposed to be 505. Well, I can either retype it. So just selecting it, I can just retype it 505, which is fine. But what if this was a really complicated number, right? So if I just select and retype, let's turn in something totally different, 800. That's all I need to do. Just select and retype and the whole thing changes. But what if what I wanted to do is to actually correct something, because maybe this is a really complicated number. Maybe this was 85743, and I don't want to have to retype the whole thing. I just want to fix one of these letters, one of these numbers, because instead of a 3, it should have been a 5. And I don't want to retype all of that. So there's 2 things I can do. I can either click on it and then go fix it up there. So I'll go in and fix that number 3. I'll change that 3 to a 5. And then it fixes it over here. That's one way. Or I can select this thing and then double click with my mouse right over where the thing has to be fixed. So say that I need to change the 7 to a 4. I put my mouse over the 7. I double click right there and my cursor enters in that spot. So then I can fix it right on the spot and turn it into a 4. Okay. And then click away and it's fixed. So if you click somewhere else, then you'll still have to go click somewhere and to fix it. So if you just kind of click over the area, that works. Or you just go over here and type it. Either way it works. And then you click away and then it gets fixed, right? So that's how to easily, you just double click and you do it on the cell itself, or you select and you do it up in the formula bar to make a correction. Now let's go ahead and make this a symbol number again. Let's make it a 50. And for that, it was easier to just select and retype. Okay. Now everyone, this is completely new. So what I'm going to show you is how to use this little fill handle. What happens is that if I have a number that's just a single number or a word that's a single word, and I go to the fill handle, look at my mouse from the big fat guy to touching the fill handle, and it's not that easy. It really quickly shifts to the other fat guy. Right there, it's the simple plus sign. That's when I grab the fill handle. If I now pull down, I've copied that number a bunch of times, or one time, as many times as I pull down. Or if I select that and I pull to the right, I've copied that number to the right. Or if I select that and I grab this handle and pull it to the left, I've copied that number. So when you have one thing and you copy it, up, down, middle, it doesn't matter. That fill handle gives you copies. All right. Now, I'm going to delete these guys here. And I'm going to delete these guys. And this is the difference with the macro, the PC. You can't just hit the delete key for deleting stuff. And never mind, on the PC you can. And now watch what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to put a 45 up here and a 50 right there. Now this one is the one that can be tricky, so pay attention. Got a 45, I have a 50. I'm going to try selecting two cells. It looks weird because one is white and one is gray, but that's a range of two cells, right? A range of two cells, a range of two cells. Okay, so go here and select 45 and 50, which is the range of two cells. I have one green box and one little fill handle here. I'm going to grab that fill handle and pull down. So now what happened is that Excel is actually filling in with a pattern. The pattern was between 45 and 50, there is a difference of 5 numbers. So it keeps adding 5 numbers to every one of those cells. Notice that if I select 45 and 50 and I grab this handle and pull upwards, it starts subtracting. It goes upwards. In fact, if I have a number 1 and a number 5, and I select those and I pull down, it actually goes into negative numbers too. Or positive numbers. Now it's adding 4 to each thing. Pretty cool. By the way, this works in either direction. So if I put a 45 in here and I move it to the right, it does it that way. Or if I move it to the left, it works in that direction as well. Are y'all trying that out? Any questions? Anything that is or isn't working? Okay. All right. So that's the simple use of the fill handle. There's a ton more that it does. I'm just show you 1 or 2 features and then let it go because I have so much more to teach you. But look, if I write the word January, oh, it's red because it's in column 1, remember? If I write January, I didn't even write January, I wrote Jan. I select it and I drag it. It knows that I'm trying to write the days of the month. If I write Monday and I click on it and I drag down, it knows to give me the days of the week. More importantly, it fills patterns. So what if I wrote, I'm going to delete these guys. What if I wrote, I'm not going to delete them. What if I wrote trimesters. I did January. Put the uppercase, January. I'm going to go for semester. So January, and is it June a semester or July? June. No, it's easier to do it in trimester. So January, April. January and April. So it assumes that I want that same amount of months skipped. And so then it gives me July, October, and then again, January, April, July, October. It knows about things like semesters and trimesters and stuff like that. Pretty cool, huh? Hopefully if this were real life, you'd all be going, ooh, ah. Let's hear some oohs and ahs. Okay, thumbs up kind of works.
Ooh, ah.
Thank you, Joe. I needed that. I needed that. Anyway, so it thinks, and the reason it went for colors is because I had, it's interesting. It actually gave me a pretty pattern too. I didn't even notice that it keeps the patterns not only in the actual months, but it actually gave me the one red, one black, one red, one black. It kept two patterns going there. Okay, so the fill handle does a ton of stuff. Now, where I want to use it and where the assignment is going to have you use it, let's head over to travel expenses, because there's one final thing that you're going to have to know about this assignment. And most of you who are here have told me that you've used Excel. So you probably know about the sum button. I don't know if you all know. I think maybe Joseph probably is the one who've used this Excel least of the group that's here. But in order to add things up relatively easily, so there's ways of adding in formulas by hand. We're going to delve much deeper into that next week with functions and stuff. But if I want to add all these numbers up right here, one of the easiest things to do is to put my mouse at the bottom. Oh, here, let's fill this up with a number. Let's go to Atlanta, January, and let's put in, I don't know, 34, 56, whatever. Well, let's put the same number actually, so that our numbers in the bottom are the same. Let's put 3, 4, 5, 6. And click away, just so that we all have the same number. So now I want to add up January's expenses for all these cities. So I'm going to put my mouse here at the bottom, and I'm going to head over to this little backwards E sign, and I'm going to give it a single click. Now, what's happening is that Excel is asking me, oh, so do you want to add up B5 through B11? So this is the first time we see a range written down, which is B5 through B11. And if I'm happy and I say, yeah, sure, then I can hit the tab key or the enter key or the return key. And when I move away, that's the total. Now, that's the total of all of these added up. When I click on this guy there, I can see up here in the formula bar. Now you see what's called the formula bar, the formula that was used, which is, I'm going to add up B5 to B7. This is a function. We'll learn about functions next week, but this is an automatic adding choice that Excel has. Now, the real magic is that, say that I had a ton of months or a ton of numbers to add up, I would have to do that for each time, for February, for March, for April, for May, for June, July. But once I've added in one formula, I can just use this little fill box, the one that we were playing around with before, and drag it over, and it's going to copy that same formula so that all these numbers get added up. So it's not going to copy the number 27,799, because there's really a formula in here, and you can tell because of the formula bar, this isn't a number, it's really the formula. Clicking on here and dragging to the right, I'm going to do it twice, drag all the way here. I get two different numbers here. Each one of these is the formula to add up. But notice that this one here said, should I add up B5 through B11? When I drag this over one, this formula is not giving me the same number because it's not adding up B5 through B11. It's adding C5 through C11, C5 through C11. And this one is adding D5 through D11, which is this row. And that's because when you drag it one over, Excel knows, oh, you must want to apply the same formula, but to the cell that's one overs, which is the C's, and to this one, which is the D's, right? So Excel adapted the formula to add up these two, and then we end up with one formula that we just dragged over, and it added up everything at the same time. So this is something you're going to have to do in the assignment, where you're going to do one formula, and then you're just going to grab this little fill box and just drag the handle over, and you get everything from January through December added up. Okay. There's a lot more to adding up into functions and formulas. We're going to learn more of that next week. But for now, that fill handle function that you're going to use is to drag your formula or your operation, so to say, your addition all the way to one side and to another. And I think you're going to be dragging some percentages and some interest numbers and stuff like that as well. But it's always going to work that same way. All right. Okay.
You just helped me in my actual everyday work.
Good.
You really did. Because I was entering the formulas for each spot. Every time I would have to enter a new form, I would enter the same exact formula
again and again and again.
And again and again, because I didn't even know that thing existed.
Amazing.
So thank you.
Fill handle is magical, and it does even more than what I've shown you, but those are some of the very basic things. And this is the one that this portion of it is, this use of it is what you'll use for this week's assignment. So yeah, you're going to get much more practice using that. And if nothing else, for those of you who Excel all the time, hopefully I want to keep teaching, but I know it's also late. And that some of you want to go, but there's so many other of these tips and tricks about how to use Excel that become invaluable, that hopefully I can nab you more next class, and even today, if you guys want to stay a little longer, giving you a few more of those deep kind of things. But the whole issue of formulas and functions and how they relate to things, next week's, please make a point to stay to next week's lecture, because I'm going to give you some other stuff that'll probably blow your mind out if you've already used Excel. People who never used Excel are like, okay, this is cool, I get it. But people who have used it go, oh my God, really? So it's really cool. All right. So how's it going? Any questions about what we've done so far? Did this work to drag this over? Let's do one more quick example. So this number here means nothing if you don't have some reference to it here, because it's just a number that could be another city. So over here, go ahead and write the word total. Just later you can format it differently as we did over here for where there's other. Oh, look at that. Everson, who has never come, is joining us today.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't recognize the name.
Well, I remember my 15 emails today. Okay, so here we go. We have a total. And now let's try this one more time. Up here, we can also add, so this adds up all of the January expenses for every city. But if I actually want a total over here, I would be getting all of the expenses for these 3 months for San Francisco, right? So it's the trimester for San Francisco. So, hi Everson, I'll be with you in a sec. We're finishing this up. Most of the people are gone now. Finishing up a little lecture, and then I'll be with you. Just hang in there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do the total for the trimester for each city, for example, right? I don't know. I'm just going to say for each city right there. And so here, I'm going to put my mouse here and add up these three. Okay, so I'll tell you more about these things, but for now, you click on that same little button. You get the same question, was what you're trying to do is add up these three numbers, B5 through D5, and you're like, yeah, that's exactly it. I'll teach you later how to fix these things, but for now, you go, yeah, So you hit the enter, and there you go. Now you know that for San Francisco, you spent that much. And again, like Joe said, instead of keeping doing that again and again, which trust me, when you have rows and rows, it takes a lot of time. You grab this little guy and drag it down, and I'm going to drag it even one more down. So this is every month for each one of these cities. And then this one down here turns out to be the absolute total of all cities for all the months. So this is the addition of all 3 months plus every city. So this is the grand total, so to say. Does that make sense? I'm gonna highlight it. And you just had to put in 2 formulas, that one, and look at all the numbers that you got out of it. Pretty cool, huh? Yay. All right. Now you guys are going to learn in this session, you're going to do more than just the sum. You're going to be doing average and stuff like that. So under this same place where it's the, you just click on that button, you get the sum. If you click on the little arrow, you actually can do automatic average, count, max and min. And so you'll be doing some more of that stuff, but we're going to work with these also next week. Okay, so you'll know more about that. But for now, there you go. Go ahead and save. And I'm going to skim really quickly through the assignment to see if there's anything else that's completely crucial for you guys to know for the assignment. 1 second. Well, you'll be doing average, max, min, but it's the same as what we just did. So you should be fine by reading the instructions. The fill handle, 1 second. Oh, I didn't show you styles, but I'll show you that in 1 second, and then adjust the column widths and move the chart. So the styles, it's going to be really simple. You're going to be told make a certain style for something. So say that you decide to make the data here a certain style. So select the font, the cells, and then just like you had in Word over here, you have styles, right? So if you go to cell styles and you click on that, you'll have a certain kind of, you can hover over different styles and have, linked cell or inputs or titles or totals and stuff like that. So maybe for the headings, you'll choose 20% accent rows. I don't know, I might ask you to do that. Or you'll select all the totals and and you'll go to over here and give it the little, the total formatting for total and stuff like that. So you just click on that, and when you click away, the font is there. I had one more thing. What's
sorry.
that?
Explain when the numbers are too big for the area where it has same
I just
thought.
saw that. That's what I was saying. Wait, there's one last thing I forgot to tell you because we both saw it show up, right? That's it happened for a second, and so I went, ooh, one last thing I want to show you. Let's head back to random because we both saw that. And this is, in fact, it's happening right here. Because remember that when we went down here, I made some cells smaller. So watch. When text doesn't fit, we already showed you text just gets truncated, right? So if this is not wrapped, then text just gets cut out. And that makes sense because we know words and we know that something's missing here. We can read it and see that it's cut out. But if you have a number and it's cut out, you don't know if it's cut out or if you just had a 10 instead of a 100. You just don't know that. So when something is too small, so I'm going to make this be too small. What Excel does is it gives you these little hashtags, which in the past of our civilization used to be number, right? That little thing that we now call a hashtag was read as number before. So when Excel began to be created, the hashtag didn't exist. This meant number. So what this really means is there's numbers here that I can't show you. There's nothing wrong. I can't show them to you. I don't have enough space versus words that just get cut out. Numbers that don't fit, just all you need to do is make more space and they'll work. Okay. So if you go here to travel expenses, and we make this column be too small, then you're going to get all these things there. And so you need to either double click, which will make it open up as big as all that because it's too much, or you'll do this by hand and make it fit the amount that you need. Okay, so if you ever see these little hashtags, don't panic. It just means that you don't have enough space. You just need it bigger, make it a little bit bigger. Still not big enough. You need to make it a little bit bigger. Okay. So yeah, when I did this here, one of those hashtags appeared and both Katie and I went, ooh, I forgot that. All right. So that's the meat of today's lecture. There's going to be a lot more around formulas and functions next week. But for now, it's 8:30. So I'm going to check in with Everson, who just showed up. You guys are welcome to stay. Remember, we're here till 9:30 if you want to work on your assignments or if you have questions. Or if you're done and you're ready to leave and go do your assignments like the other guys did, go ahead and do that too. It's fine. We are here. So, or if you have questions about something else, anything about this that you want to ask, or about anything like, why is the sky blue? I might not be able to answer that, but we're here. All right. Bye, Joseph. So Everson. Hi, are you there? How's it going? Are you there? Okay, bye, Joe. Bye, Faye. Everson, are you there? You can write on the chat if you can't talk. I was mentioning to Katie how we had spent quite a while on emails today, and Katie is our tutor, by the way. So over there, say hi, Katie. Hi, she's our
Hi.
tutor. She's one of our many tutors and the one that belongs directly to our class and who will help you if you go to the Zoom sessions. But I'm not hearing from you. Are you there? You have your sound off. And you don't have video, so I don't know if you're there. Can you hear me? Let me write to you in the chat in case you can't hear me. Are you there? So I just wrote to you in the chat. And if we can't hear you or see you or talk to you through the chat, then can't help you. So we just finished our lecture. Everyone's gone. But if you need something or have a question, I know I told you to come to the Zoom meetings. We start at 5:30. It's 8:30 and we just finished. Sometimes we finish earlier, sometimes a bit later. But we're done for the day.
Mhm.
And I still don't hear you. So I'm going to chat with Katie and see if you can get around to fixing your sound. So Everson had issues with the fact that he had copied it. We seem to have deducted that by copying the text from the ebook and pasting it in, that's why he was getting the unable to submit, rejecting the assignment. So I'm just curious to
Yeah.
see if you fixed that and if you were able to submit successfully. Of course, what might have happened if you might have run out of time. So I'm trying to hear if you have something to say. Probably not.
Oh, you're also still sharing if you want to stop sharing.
Oh, that's true. That might help.
Mhm. Everson, did you come in through VDI or just through your normal computer or internet?
I don't know that there's something there. Because you're not chatting some. All right, well. All right. So I keep trying to send email people every time someone emails me. I keep sending them to the tutors, and I'm not sure that you guys are getting too
We
many
got
people. But meanwhile,
Faya came in and Joseph.
Great.
And yeah. And Joseph had all of the same problems that the
other two
both
have, yeah.
the other two had. I was like, and he came in on Monday and got that all
Okay.
fixed.
Well, that's great.
So that was nice.
All right. Well,
The footnote gets everyone.
Since we're, yeah, and I explained it in the lecture, but only about 3 people stayed at the end. So, all right. So guys, I was making food. I'm sorry. Okay, great. You're there. I was about to hang up. I was about to say, okay, goodbye. So I'm glad you're there. All right. So, because Everson wrote me as a direct message, so Katie isn't
Oh,
seeing
I
it.
can't see that.
Okay. All right. Well, it's good that you dropped by. He's just mentioning that he was just trying to drop by. I'm reading it out to Katie because she can't see it. So if you switch to Everson, she'll see it too. So Katie, I was introducing you to Katie is our tutor, our dedicated class tutor, and who you're going to meet in Zoom and who is ridiculously helpful if you ever do go to the
Mhm.
Zoom. There you go. So, hey, Katie. And she's there all week. And there's 2 other tutors who are there some of the time, but
Yeah.
Katie's the one who's
The
there the
other
most.
two, yeah, though the other two do know Spanish better than me.
Oh,
a lot.
that's good to know.
I'm the one that knows like nothing.
You know what?
I'm the
I
odd
should
one
actually
out.
tell students that if they need.
Oh yeah, because
more
both
help in
Norma and
Spanish.
Esther know really good.
Oh, that's good to know. I didn't actually ever think of telling people that. That's good to know.
Mhm.
So anyway,
Fair.
so I was just telling Katie how you had issues with submitting because of having text in the document that wasn't
Mhm.
written by you. So if you run into any other trouble, check in on all the schedules that I sent you today. Explain to Katie what's up, and she'll be able to continue helping you from there. And same with if you end up with Norma or
Esther.
they all are. Whenever you sign in, just say that you're in Comp 101 and I'm your teacher, and there's different tech support people that
Yeah,
answer
we all
that tech
get to
link.
sit in a cute lab like this.
Yeah, and so when
all
you
together.
you click on that link, you will get sent to one of them, and they'll be able to help you. Okay. Yeah. So time
Mhm.
management, I think, is a huge issue. I am,
Especially
you
for
know,
online. I'm
still,
horrible.
I'm horrible at time management with online courses myself. So I totally get it. Just remember, if you saw the schedule today, they're there every day of the week. And they can help you much more than I can over email, because in email I'm having to guess at what you're saying, versus if they see the file, they can immediately go, oh, well, this is what's wrong, or that's what's wrong. Okay. So I'm glad you stopped by. And today's lecture is over. We start at 5:30. So check out the lecture, which always gets posted online, if you want to know how to work on
Ditto.
your Excel assignments next week, because I just finished explaining all of that. Okay. All right. So I'm going to say then, and do you have any particular question now, Everson, before we leave? Because
Oh, yeah.
we're still here if you have questions. Or you just wanted to say hi, that's good too. You keep typing and then deleting. That's fine.
It is hard. Yeah. Talking and we do have to wait for a little bit longer.
You
I call it the
yeah.
Dora the Explorer effect,
Yeah.
where you have to say like, okay, guys, and you sit there for a minute. You're like,
Well,
Let
you
them
should
do
have
the full
seen
type.
today on my samples, I was typing and getting it wrong each time. So yeah, it's hard. Oh, well, thank you. Oh, wow. So you're doing a lot of work. Okay. Well,
oh,
it
great.
is
That's
a
always fun.
class. Yeah, you do have to do quite a bit of work for this class. It's not hard, but it's time consuming, right? So yeah. And well, the good news is you have work. Yay. The bad news is that you need to do a little bit more time management. So as long as you reach out to me and keep trying, I totally am available to support you, and so are the tutors. Okay.
Mhm.
But so just try to do things before Tuesday, and then you'll be able to get everything done. All right. Cool. Yeah. And then if you do them, say, over the weekend, then you still have Monday also to get help. Or if you do them, say, you start on Wednesday and you trudge through it, they're there, you know,
Mhm.
up until Friday. But then you're kind of alone if you start on the weekend. So try to start someday during the week so you can reach out for help. All right. Okay. And then unless there's anything else, bye everyone. I'm glad you popped in to meet us, and look forward to helping you in the future. Okay. All right, guys. Bye everyone. Take care.